to make very, very small steps of progress. They may be boosted by an apparent concession, a major concession it would be, from President Zelensky saying that Ukraine would be willing to put aside the issue of NATO membership.
That's been something Russian President Vladimir Putin says he will not accept. The second gentleman, Vice President Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, tests positive for COVID-19. He says he has mild symptoms. The vice president tested negative herself for COVID yesterday, but canceled an equal pay day event just in case. Air travel's bouncing back from slowdowns during the pandemic.
Last month, domestic ticket bookings topped 2019 levels for the first time since the pandemic started, according to figures from Adobe Digital Economy. Delta Airlines president Glenn Howenstein calls the surge in demand unparalleled. United and American Airlines are also seeing demand higher than ever, and they're all counting on passengers to pay more to cover the soaring price of fuel. Carmen Roberts, Fox News.
Stocks in Asia are higher today. Dow futures are higher ahead of the expected announcement of our interest rate hike. America's listening to Fox News.
Life is about being active. Whether it's about going on your daily tasks or exercising, you know you're well when you're regularly active. But what happens when being active actually hurts by the end of the day? This is the position I found myself in a number of years ago. Everything I wanted to do in my daily life, all of the activity it called for, was held captive to almost constant nagging pain. When I heard about Relief Factor, I was skeptical, but my wife said, give it a chance. Not long after I took it, I could feel the pain begin to melt away, and I've been taking it ever since. And I can tell you that Relief Factor has helped me get my life back. I love that it's not a drug, but it was developed by doctors, and about 70% of the people who try it go on to order more. Your first step to becoming pain-free just might be ordering a 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF, or ReliefFactor.com. Find out all about this offer and feel the difference.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 6:03. We're going to have a beautiful day here in mid-Missouri. It's going to be gorgeous. Our high will be up into the 60s today. No rain in the forecast today. Rain, however, in the forecast a little bit tomorrow. 45 right now in Columbia already. Our sunrise this morning at 7:19 a.m. It will set at 7:17. Good morning, everyone. Here's some of the stories we are working on for you in this 6 o'clock hour. A jury is expected to hear opening statements this morning in the trial of a Columbia man charged with beating a man to death in June 2020. Jury selection taking place on Tuesday at the Boone County Courthouse for David Edward Myers' trial. He is charged with second-degree murder. Myers accused of killing 39-year-old Anthony Lockwood of Columbia by beating him with a pole or a stick after an argument. The Boone County Sheriff's Department investigating that death as a homicide. Myers' attorneys are expected to argue self-defense in this case. Boone County's veteran prosecutor says Joe Anthony Johnson could be the most prolific serial rapist in the county's history. The 32-year-old Johnson is serving a 100-year prison sentence for rape and sodomy. They involve incidents involving young women who go to bars in 2015 and 2016. Prosecutor Dan Knight hopes this case raises awareness for young women who frequent the bars in downtown Columbia.
This is an ongoing problem, and I was always hopeful that would be something, there would be a deterrent effect, but there would also be this component where people who are going to bars and things like that would be more aware that this is what can happen.
Johnson is serving a 100-year sentence at the state's maximum security prison in southern Missouri's Licking. He was convicted of 2 counts of rape, 2 counts of sodomy involving 4 victims. Johnson's mother testified during his trial here in Columbia that her son's actions were not criminal. Boone County Clerk Brianna Lennon is forecasting a 15% voter turnout for the April election here in Boone County. Columbia voters will be electing a new mayor since the incumbent Brian Brian Treese is not seeking re-election. Suzette Waters, Blake Willoughby, Andrea Lisenby, and Adam Burks are seeking 2 seats on Columbia School Board. Those names I gave you are in order or how they'll appear on the ballot. Voters in the Southern Boone R1 District and National cast ballots on a $3 million bond issue to improve aging outdoor facilities at the high school. Southern Boone officials say there are safety issues with the football and the soccer field caused by wet weather and usage in September and October. The bond issue would pay for artificial turf, new artificial turf, and also would resurface the track, which is more than 20 years old. The Commerce Department saying this morning that a $1.3 million federal grant to expand Columbia's popular farmers market will increase the capacity for local vendors to sell their products. The farmers market takes place Saturday mornings from 9 until noon on West Ash. It's by the Arc. The Farmers Market Executive Director Karina Smith tells 93.9 The Eagle the funding will help finish and expand the pavilion. She notes there are currently 98 stalls. 40 of them are covered. The project will provide more access to locally grown food. Missouri's first electric cooperative has moved its annual meeting from July to September 15th to be exact, so they can use the brand new facilities being built at Columbia's Range Line and I-70 for the drive-through event. We've had several listeners ask what's happening at Range Line and I-70, and what it is Boone Electric building new headquarters for their facility. It's a very visible location. Boone Electric's Meredith Haynes tells 93.9 The Eagle the vehicle maintenance building should be done by the end of the month, if not next week. She says the community room building is still under construction. Boone Electric began with 140 members in 1936. It now has more than 30,000 members in Boone, Audrain, Callaway, Howard, Monroe, and Randolph counties. Jury selection in a high-profile 2018 Jefferson City murder case will begin on Monday.
Juwan Worley is charged with first-degree murder and other crimes in the shooting death of 33-year-old Justin Kamrich back in December of 2018 at an apartment complex off West Atchison Street. Worley was only 16 at the time of the shooting. A second 20-year-old victim survived the attack. John Marsh, 93.9 The Eagle.
Just a reminder, coming up after our 7:30 newscast, former Columbia City manager John Glascock will join Branden Rathert and our team here on Wake Up Columbia. We'll be talking, among other issues, about the use tax issue that will appear in Columbia on your ballot. And you folks in Columbia, Boone County, and Ashland, you'll all be voting twice on use tax issues. Specifically, Columbia and Ashland voters will be voting twice. We'll explain that with John because there's been a little bit of confusion on that. Our news is brought to you this morning by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean for all of your heating needs. Log on to airserve.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:08. Turning our attention now to sports. The Mizzou baseball team hitting 17 hits, 18 runs. They rout the St. Louis University Billikens 18-4, 7 innings on Tuesday evening at Taylor Stadium here in Columbia. Mizzou now 12-2 on the year. Again, 17 hits. They beat the Billikens. By the way, the Billikens, a good team. Mizzou handling them easily, though, 18-4. Mizzou softball team heading to Urbana, Illinois today for a bragging rights doubleheader against Illinois. That'll start at noon today. The opponent, the Illinois Fighting Illini. And our sports is brought to you this hour by Witt Print Shop, where your printed products are so much more than ink and paper. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:09. All right, John, thanks, John. You always do a great job. We love hearing your voice on the television and the radio. Our weather is brought to you by the folks at AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning for all of your heating needs. Log on to airserve.com. 45 degrees. And our traffic check is presented to you by MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job or post your job opening today. The roads have been pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri. If you do want to report a traffic issue, maybe we're missing something, you can give us a call or a text, 573-874-9390. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes, and we have breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
As the day goes on, I look forward to others will be coming to the floor here in a moment. You'll see it's an eclectic collection of members of the United States Senate in favor of what we've just done here in the Senate, and that's to pass a bill to make a daylight savings time permanent.
I love this, and it scares me. Seriously. So Marco Rubio, senator from Florida, speaking on behalf of this bill that would make daylight saving time permanent. Something that it seems so simple. We've thought about it for years. State Rep Chuck Basie, he's been pushing this in the Missouri House for a lot of years. One of the big issues specifically in Missouri, because there are pockets of states that don't take part in daylight saving time.
I'm kind of disappointed they didn't call it the Brad Trinago Act of 2015.
I was watching this yesterday because everybody's like, oh my God, the Senate looks like they're getting ready to pass this thing, and it looks like it's going to have overwhelming support. And I'm like, when was, because we're focused on what's happening in Ukraine. We're focused on our thoughts and prayers with the family of the photographer from Fox News who's getting love from CNN, MSNBC, and the White House. Died while covering this story, as did a producer who was working from Fox News. She was from Ukraine, so we're paying attention to all this, and I'm thinking about this use tax thing, because locally we're talking about the mayoral race and city candidates in this race coming up for the election, the municipal election next month. And all this stuff's going on, paying attention, and daylight saving time? That was something, there was a thing in D.C. How come I didn't cover this in the daily D.C. rundown that we do every morning at 6:25? And as I researched it, because like nobody knew about it.
It was something Marco Rubio, who you've met and talked to many times, and you knew him down in Pensacola. It's something he has felt very strongly about. But no, you didn't miss anything. It's just something that it's the kind of bill. This is one of my criticisms of the national media. They focus so much on the divisive issues. Their bread and butter issues. There are still bills that pass every day up there that are passed overwhelmingly. And in this case, it's very bipartisan. It's absolutely newsworthy. So I'm glad it's being covered. But as you and I talked about, Branden, off air, this bill basically in a similar way gets filed in Jeff City every year. And I went back and looked at a story I did at Missouri Net September 28th, 2016. He's out of office right now. He termed out. But State Representative Mike Kelly, very similar comments he told me at the time of what Marco Rubio said. He said there's a lot of interest in it. People are tired of the switch. It doesn't deserve a purpose in today's society. If voters would approve it and the bill didn't pass, Missourians would no longer change the clocks in the fall and the spring. The opponents, and I'm sure this is the same thing that the opponents nationwide in Jeff City, were worried about the potential impact on businesses near the state's borders. It was State Representative Tracy McCreary, a Democrat from Olivet, who's really against this. She says the vast majority of Missourians live along the border. But Kelly, and Marco Rubio hinted at this, Kelly, who supported this, said it would reduce the number of vehicle crashes. It is definitely intriguing. It's fascinating. And it's something, I don't know what's going to happen on that in Washington, but it's certainly newsworthy.
How did this strike you? I would love to hear what you think. 874-9390. So I think, and listen, for me personally, whatever, twice a year, and I don't even have to change any clocks anymore. The computer, the internets do it for me. My phone, I wake up, it's magically at the right time. Except for this morning. Except for this morning, by the way. So I got good news and I got bad news. The bad news is I was incredibly late this morning, and that happens a couple times a year.
It's going to happen.
It happens to all of us.
It happens to everybody, regardless of what you do. But you know that feeling, you wake up, and here's what I'm serious. I feel like such a failure. I do. Like,
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, you do. What? you wake up, and Brian, you've probably never been late in your life.
It happened to me one, and actually during the snowstorm, not on an air shift, but I was going to come over. Hannah's aware of it, and I slept through 2 alarms in the afternoon. I was so tired, so it can happen. It absolutely can, especially when you got a lot on your plate.
And this is one of the reasons why we love the Zimmer Radio Network news director, Brian Hauswirth, because, yeah, he has been late, but it's not for what he does in the morning as the news director here on Wake Up Columbia. It's for an afternoon thing.
He was probably 5 minutes late, right?
Yeah. But it is a weird feeling.
Yeah, it is.
Have you ever experienced that? 874-9390. It's like you wake up and you're like, oh, my God, I failed, and I'm going to get fired, and everybody hates me at work, and they're going to be disappointed. I'm going to walk in the building, and everybody's going to look at me like a disappointed father. I mean, you've probably experienced this.
Well, the last time I was late, the show didn't start on time.
When Hannah's late, like, we've got to move heaven and earth to make sure that this thing happens. So the bad news, I was a couple hours late this morning. Ideally, you won't notice a difference here on the show this morning. But now the good news? I got 2 extra hours of sleep today.
Amen.
And you got here before 5:30. That's all that matters.
And you did great. And exactly.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing okay. And again, it happens to everyone.
I will say, when I pull in the parking lot, when I get here at 5 o'clock and I don't see your car, I immediately go, oh no.
Well, and then the other thing, and I'll mention this real quick, and then I want to move on back to this daylight saving time stuff because I think it's great. And also, it kind of scared. There's something I think we should be paying attention to here, seriously. So, but then the other thing I think, because of my history, I haven't had a drink for 569 days. But even back in the day, thank you, Hauswirth, back in the day, I don't think I was ever really late a whole lot because of drinking. There are a lot of qualifiers there. I don't think I was late a whole lot because of. But I really was, and I would always make sure I was still at work. I always showed up. I showed up physically. Is that a better statement?
Yes.
And so that's the other thought I have. I'm like, man, everybody's automatically going to think the worst. And then I'm already coming up. Well, okay, so here's one. So my mom just had a stroke, and she's been released from Truman VA, and now she's at my house, and I have a car in the shop, and I'm borrowing cars from 2 different friends.
That's a lot.
Anyhow.
It is a lot.
So daylight saving time, moving our clocks twice a year, whatever.
I much prefer fall back than spring forward. That extra hour of sleep is really nice.
By the way, great question from Jenny off the text about what does living on a border have anything to do with daylight saving time. We want to get into that here shortly for the state of Missouri, but it just doesn't bother me. I love it when it stays daylight till almost 9 o'clock. So I think this is great. And before I get on to the thing, this kind of scares me a little bit, really, if you think about it. Question from Jenny off the text, 874-9390. What does living on a border have anything to do with daylight savings time? Now we're talking specifically about the legislation over the years in Missouri. Jefferson City. And here's why that's important.
Yeah, and Jenny's question is a great one. I'm looking at the story I did in 2016 on Missouri Net, and I quote in the story, and I'm going from memory because I haven't talked to her about it in a couple of years, but it was State Representative, probably soon to be State Senator Tracy McCreary. It'd be good sometime maybe to get her on this because she really feels strongly about it. She told me and said this on the floor as well that there'd be a huge potential impact on businesses near the state's borders. Now, again, she's talking specifically if Missouri went ahead. Obviously, she wasn't talking about if it happens at the federal level. But she said if we acted on our own, it would have an impact on the businesses on the state borders.
Yeah.
She also said that the television broadcasters were concerned about television.
Yep.
And it was a little but she said the vast majority of Missourians live along the border. So that I hope that makes sense.
Jenny, and thank you for the text, 874-9390. Here's the reason this scares me a little bit. Congress has the power to, in effect, control what time it is.
I do.
That, really, just with an act, and then I'm thinking, what time is it really? By the way, so this still has to go through the House and have to go to Biden, but it did pass the Senate with overwhelming support, bipartisan support. That's the other good thing. People working together, at least on something.
Hopefully, if it gets to Biden's desk, somebody helps him spell his name.
J-O. Joe. Wake up. Oh, sorry. So they have the ability to, in effect, control time. That's weird. If I get into my head too deeply about it, Congress has the power to control time. And then I'm wondering, so this, if it does take effect, it would be November 2023. So I think November 2023, we wouldn't be falling back, is the way they're looking at it now. And the reason for the delay has to do with Department of Transportation schedules for flights and all that stuff. And the name of this is a little frightening, too. It shows you the power of our elected servants. It's called the Sunshine Protection Act. Like they're protecting, like they're wrapping the sun in a blanket.
I feel like that could be confused with like sunshine requests.
Well, incidentally, Hannah, since you mentioned it, you hear this? Eric Schmidt, our Attorney General, Eric Schmidt, he's filed a lawsuit against the Missouri School Boards Association, saying that they have knowingly concealed documents requested under the state's sunshine law. But that's what it sounds like. You're right. The Sunshine Protection Act. Lawmakers, people we voted to put in office, they're in D.C. They're protecting the sunshine. They're controlling time. Here's been my idea, then we'll move forward because we want to get into the daily D.C. rundown. Another Biden nominee bites the dust before they even get to a vote. We'll hear that coming up. Here it was my plan for years regarding daylight savings. I mean,
Your plan?
My plan. I'm going to run for mayor of Columbia, and everybody gets a $1,000 check. Everybody 18 and older, I should win. It'll be easy. Now, actually sending out those $1,000 checks without charging you, the taxpayer, more money for that, I don't know how I'm going to do that. But here's been my idea for daylight saving time for years. In the spring, so in other words, this past weekend, we wouldn't wait until Sunday overnight. Do it when it counts. If you're going to spring the clock forward an hour, do it like Friday afternoon, 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right? People are waiting to get off work. It's Friday, man. I want to get down to Truman's and meet the friends for happy hour. It's 4 o'clock. So, it's 5 o'clock, time to go. And then in the fall, again, overnight Sunday, who cares? Monday morning, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. We set the clocks back then. When it matters, we get an extra hour of sleep. Rathert for president 2024.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Okay. Coming up, Daily DC Rundown. We'll do that for you here at 6:26. Another
Wake Up Columbia with Branden Rathert. Mid-Missouri is listening.
It's bad enough that he's going around begging dictators to give us oil because he won't allow Americans to produce our own energy, but now he's going to actual teenagers and begging them on a Chinese-owned social media app to do his job.
Josh Hawley, senator from Missouri, soon to be the senior U.S. senator from Missouri, talking about, so TikTok, it's an app a lot of the kids use nowadays. It's a Chinese-owned application, by the way. So here's what the White House is doing right now. This is getting us into today's daily D.C. rundown here on 93.9 The Eagle. They're getting teens, they're getting kids, they're getting these social media influencers, and they're saying, hey, listen, just so you know, gas prices, inflation, that's not Joe's fault. None of that is Joe's fault. It's Putin. It's all on this. And we know that is a lie. Now, we know if we're being fair, if we're being honest with ourselves and with other people, we know the explosion in gas prices over the past several weeks or so. Yeah, we know why that is. But we also know why they had been rising since January the 20th of 2021. And now they're utilizing kids to say, oh, here's what's happening. I'll stick with Kamala's original statement.
We did it. We did it, Joe.
Yeah. You guys did it. You did that. You caused record inflation. You've caused these monstrous gas prices. It's affecting all of us here in mid-Missouri. Another Biden nominee bites the dust. Sarah Bloom Raskin withdrew her nomination to a position to the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors after a key Democrat had joined with all Senate Republicans to oppose her confirmation. If you're a Democrat, in your mind, the offender who allowed this to happen, West Virginia's Joe Manchin. Coming up, more about that Sunshine Request lawsuit from our Attorney General, Eric Schmidt. That's coming up at 6:35.
That check of weather brought to you by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. For all your heating needs, log on to AIRESERV.com.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. There are hints there could be progress in Russia-Ukraine peace talks.
Both sides are motivated to keep talking because they are essentially fighting each other to a standstill. Ukrainian officials say they continue to cause huge casualties among Russian forces. Russian forces hit back, continuing their bombardment of several cities across Ukraine, including Kharkiv in the east, much of which appears to have been reduced to little more than rubble.
Fox's Jonathan Hunt in Lviv. Ukrainian President Zelensky will make a direct appeal virtually to U.S. lawmakers this morning. And the number of new reported COVID deaths fell 17% worldwide last week, though COVID infections rose, according to the World Health Organization. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 6:31. Right now we do have clear skies. It's 45 degrees in Columbia. Our high today will be in the 60s. Our sunrise this morning, 7:19. It will set. It's 7:17. Good morning, everyone. Here's some of the stories we are working on for you at this hour. In the 6 a.m. hour. Opening statements expected to begin here in a few hours at the Boone County Courthouse in Columbia in the trial of a man accused of beating a man to death north of Columbia in 2020. 56-year-old David Myers charged with second-degree murder for the June 2020 death of Anthony Lockwood of Columbia. Court documents say Myers and Lockwood were involved in an argument on Sycamore Hills. Myers allegedly beat the victim to death with a pole or a stick. Missouri's first electric co-op is moved its annual meeting from July to September so they can use their brand new facilities being built at Range Line and I-70.
Boone Electric is building its new headquarters at that very visible location. Boone Electric spokeswoman Meredith Haynes says their vehicle maintenance building should be done by the end of the month, if not by next week. She says the community room building is still under construction. Boone Electric began with 140 members back in 1936 and now has more than 30,000 members in Boone, Audrain, Callaway, Howard, Monroe, and Randolph counties. Don Luzader, 93.9 The Eagle.
Boone County's clerk predicting a 15% voter turnout for the April election. John Glascock will join us live after the 7:30 news to talk about Columbia's use tax. And Congresswoman Cori Bush of Missouri has a memoir coming out this fall about her personal struggles and years of activism. News is brought to you this hour by Air Serv Heating and Air Conditioning. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:33. In sports, the Mizzou softball team heading to Urbana today, the Champaign-Urbana, for the bragging rights doubleheader against the Fighting Illini of Illinois. That game will start at noon today. Again, that will be a doubleheader. And a reminder for everyone, the Mizzou women's basketball team playing against Drake in the NIT. That game will be tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock at Mizzou Arena in Columbia. Pretty rare for a team to get to host an NIT, so that'll be great for the local fans to be able to see the game. Drake has a young lady, Ms. Nilgis. You'll remember her, you folks in Jeff City, and she is an outstanding player. Played for the Jays with the Linthicum girls, and she'll be on that team as well. Great shooter from the outside. 7 o'clock tomorrow night. If you want to go to the game and you need tickets, 1-800-CATPAWS is the number to call. You can call that number today or tomorrow. Sports is brought to you this hour by Mid-America Mortgage, midamerica.mortgage.us, and apply now for a loan on your dream home. Our news time, 6:34. Traffic check with MidmoHires.com. Local companies looking for local people. At 6:34, visit MidmoHires.com to find a job. Post your job opening today. Roads pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri so far. We hope that stays the same throughout the morning. If you want to report a traffic issue, call or text us at 573-874-9390. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes, and we have breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
The Missouri School Board Association does so much business with the state and accepts, so much of the public money that it qualifies as a quasi-governmental body.
That's Sandy Davidson, local attorney, professor emeritus at Mizzou, talking to our friends at ABC 17, talking about this lawsuit from Attorney General Eric Schmidt, who is running for Senate this year. This is a lawsuit from the Attorney General's office against the Missouri School Board Association, saying, listen, you are knowingly, here's what the lawsuit claims, you are knowingly concealing documents requested under the state's Sunshine Law. You can't do that. I'll tell you what's happened with what we have learned about what's happening in public schools over the past 2 years. If we start to look at some of those things, hey, what's been positive over the past 2 years? Learning more about what's been happening in our public school system, whether it's teachers' unions, whether it is school boards, these school boards who, in my opinion, power hungry. They want to tell you what to do. They want to control you, and they don't take kindly to people who disagree with them. That's one of the reasons I applaud. There is a group of teachers, and I know there's more out there. We're at an event for a couple of the school board candidates that I would vote for today. That's Adam Burks, Andrea Lisenby. There were teachers there talking about what we have been talking about what we've been hearing from parents for 2 years now. Teachers are now saying this in the Columbia Public School District. They're saying communication is poor from the administration. And I applaud these teachers for coming out, talking about what's happening in the schools. They had this audience. They captured the audience's attention. The audience was listening to every word some of these people were saying whenever they were talking. It was just mind-blowing, and I applaud, really, bravery on part of the teachers to do this. Because, man, you go against that all-powerful teachers union, man, you get yourself in some real trouble. So I applaud them for that. And so one of the other things we've learned, besides the critical race theory, besides some of the things that they're teaching in schools, besides all that stuff, is apparently, according to this lawsuit against the Missouri School Boards Association, they're claiming, Schmidt is, that they knowingly concealed documents requested under the state sunshine law. And you heard the attorney here saying, listen, school board does so much business with the state. Yeah, that's... welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Columbia. My name is Branden. Rathert. Brian Hauswirth. How you doing today, bud?
I'm hanging in there, my friend. Great to see you.
Good
Appreciate
to see you, man. The head of the producer is here. How are you today?
I am all right. How are you?
I'm excellent. Well rested. I'm well rested. I was late I slept in 2 hours. It was crazy. My name is Branden. Welcome into the show. Something we can do for you, 874-9390. Imagine the shock to a lot of people. I think even people in the industry of journalism. The Senate did what? What did they do today? And they it was overwhelmingly approved. Why hadn't we heard about this in the Daily DC Rundown on 93.9 The Eagle? Apparently, it was just because a lot of attention on other things, and it was never really like, hey, Senate's going to be covering this, because how would one look? Well, I'm worried about switching my clock forward or back an hour, man. You know, a big white guy problem today for a 51-year-old dude. Well, you know, there's Russia has attacked Ukraine. You know that, right? And gas prices, it's affecting everybody. Grocery prices, energy prices right now. I mean, all of us hanging out here this morning, whether you're listening on the app, whether you're watching on the 93.9 The Eagle YouTube channel, whether you're listening online at 939theeagle.com, all of us hanging out virtually, realistically. Every single one of us this morning here at 6:39 have been affected by what has happened in this country since January 20th. And that's just a true story, man.
It is.
That's all. So yesterday we get this news. Oh, yeah, the Senate, they went and they talked about daylight saving time, and they unanimously approved this bill that would, in effect, end it. And I want to bring in somebody who's been working on this from a statewide level for a lot of years now. State Rep Chuck Basie joining us on the show now here on 93.9 The Eagle. Chuck, your reaction after you heard. Now, it still has to go to the House, and then somebody's going to have to wake Joe up from his nap to sign the bill. But what was your reaction when you heard about this yesterday?
Well, it was interesting. When I just got a text message from a friend that pointed it out, and they said the Senate passed this, and I knew right away it couldn't have been the Missouri Senate. They're not really doing a whole lot anyway. But I shouldn't criticize my friends over there because I'm going to need their help later on. But, anyway, but
38 seconds into this conversation, and Chuck Basie's on fire.
Anyway, but it'll be pretty interesting. It'd be nice to do it on the federal level, and that would take all the states out of that equation there. So I think it'd be pretty nice to have that happen.
You know, Representative, it's great to have you with us. To Branden's point about the federal bill, there is a bill in Jefferson City, and I've interviewed you guys every year. I think you and I have talked for about 5 years, so I've got two real quick questions about it. Number one, Chris Sander, your friend and colleague from Lone Jack, has a bill to establish the daylight savings as new standard time pact. That's a state bill, 1761. It passed in the House. This is again, we talk all about these political fights in Jeff City. It passed in committee 11-1. Virtually every Democrat and Republican on that committee voted for it. So there's bipartisan support for that.
Yeah, I would think so. It's been filed every year. I've never carried it, but other representatives have, and it just never really makes a whole lot of traction. So anyway, you never know what's going to pass, but I would certainly vote for it if it makes it to the floor.
And if I could follow up, your friend and colleague, she's a Democrat, Tracy McCrary, somebody you agree on issues with, sometimes disagree. Her concern every time I've interviewed her representative has been the businesses at the border, specifically the St. Louis, Kansas City areas, but maybe Cape Girardeau or perhaps St. Joseph. She's worried about the impact there. And she's also indicated the broadcasters, and I think specifically television, would be impacted by this if the state were to do this on its own. Your thoughts on those concerns?
Well, I think it's something we could discuss. I haven't really thought about that, but she's got a point there. But there are other states that do not honor the time change. I think Arizona and Indiana come to mind.
Yep.
So I think that would be something to look at as well to see how they handle that stuff. But I don't know if they do it nationally, that'll affect the whole country, and I think that'd be the way to go. I personally think that's the appropriate way to handle it, and we'll see what happens as we move forward. So I don't know if that'll pass the House or not, but it's interesting that it passed unanimously in the U.S. Senate, though.
State Rep Chuck Basie hanging out with us here on 93.9 The Eagle and 93.9theeagle.com, where you can listen live this morning. Something he's been working on, daylight saving time, at least for the state of Missouri. One of the big issues over the years was we have 8 states that touch Missouri in one way or another, and the big issue for reasons of commerce, trying to get everybody else on board. But now it's passed the Senate. It's got to go to the House, and then Joe eventually would sign it. By the way, this would not take effect until November of 2023. We were talking earlier, and I know you have been. You talk about somebody that walks the talk, would have no qualms putting Chuck Basie's name in this hat, especially when it comes to education. Over the past 2 years, we know this. I hate to call it a fight, but it has been, because the Columbia Public School District, specifically, they've been in fights with lots of people. See, that's an issue. You know, if you look at somebody, you go, why is this person always getting into fights? It's like me, and I used to ask, why do I keep dating all these crazy broads? And eventually it occurred to me, it's me. I'm the common denominator. And the same goes for the Columbia Public School District. Why do they keep getting into these fights? Why do they keep getting sued? Why do they have these parents that are starting chat rooms to talk about what's happening? Why do they have teachers getting together at a local restaurant talking about things from a teacher's point of view? It's communication, it's communication, it's communication. We have had our dealings with very poor communication with the Columbia Public School Board and officials there. Parents have, and now teachers are publicly starting to talk about this. But meanwhile, Missouri School Boards Association, Attorney General Eric Schmidt, who's running for Senate, filing a lawsuit saying that they have knowingly concealed documents requested under the state's sunshine law. Your thoughts on this, or kind of as a whole, public schools, school boards maybe is where we should narrow this down. Your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it's very interesting. I actually have a bill that has been referred to the Education Committee. It's House Bill 1748 that would require the Missouri School Board Association to be subject to the Sunshine Law. And, they do receive public money. I asked that in the Joint Education Committee hearing a few months ago. How do they receive their funding? And they admitted it's dues from school districts all across the state. And how do school districts get funded? With taxpayer money. So I think it would be very, very appropriate to have them subject to the Sunshine Law. But, we'll see where that lawsuit goes. I know the Attorney General has been very, very active in some legal challenges against schools and school officials across the state. So I was very happy to see that he had done that. So, but there's a lot of issues. I think you hit it right on the head. I think the main problem is just a lack of communication from school board, school officials with members of the public.
You've had it. I have had it. As a matter of fact, I had an official with the school district not even contact me. They contacted our news director. Can you tell Branden to quit saying that? It's not true. And I contacted this individual and immediately sent a couple of examples. Here's things you haven't responded to. The school board member that wouldn't come on the show. We've heard from parents. We're hearing from teachers. We're hearing from the Attorney General. So what's the common denominator here? Oh, it's the Columbia Public School District. It's teachers' unions. It's school boards. That's the common denominator. Think about this for a second. Chuck, can you hang out for a few minutes and maybe talk about some things that are happening in the House? We've had our attention focused on prices and how it's affecting our bank accounts every month. We've had an uber focus on what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, but do want to get back to some things that are happening here that will affect us in the Show Me State. Can you hang out for a few minutes?
Absolutely. Be glad to.
All right. Chuck Basie, state representative. We'll have more with him. Some other things that are affecting you that are working through the wheels in Jefferson City. By the way, back to this daylight saving time thing really quick. Thing that scares me about this is government has the ability to, in effect, control time. They can control time. They did it in a quick afternoon yesterday. Really? That scares me. But Jenny, you got to check out this text from Jenny. I'm going to nominate Jenny as one of our winners of the week for her text. I'll share that with you coming up at 6:51. I also got to give points to listener Sandy this morning. because all this talk about daylight saving time, and what time is it really? Because when this does take effect, if it does, November 2023, we'd be asking, what time is it really? We've switched clocks. Some states have done it, some haven't, and now we're not. Where are we really? And she said, Branden, I'm in the mood for Chicago's. Does anybody really know what time it is? Does it? John Martin and the folks at Pro Pumping and Hydrojetting. It's about maintenance. Just like with a car, with your lawn equipment, whatever it is. Maintenance. With your home, too, right? You do things every year, every few months to make sure the home is maintained. The very same simple premise applies to septic tanks, lagoons, things like that. That's the bulk of what they do. They help prevent you from encountering any big problems because you haven't had your septic tank dealt with in a while. And when a septic tank, there are very few small problems with a septic tank. If you have a problem with a septic tank, it's a big problem. And the folks at Pro Pumping and Hydrojetting, they try to keep those kinds of things from happening by putting you on a maintenance program where they're coming out several times a year, checking out things, making sure you're good to go, saving you a lot of money potentially down the road. So please check them out. Go to their website, pro-pumping.com.
Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle. The world is watching on Facebook Live. Are you?
We need to do everything we can to help him protect the lives and the sovereignty, the freedom of his people without committing the U.S. to a war with Russia. It's a delicate balance, of course, and we'll be very interested to hear what he says about that.
It's Congressman Mike Johnson, reps a district in Louisiana. So Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky preparing to speak before members of Congress this morning. And Mr. Johnson telling Fox and Friends this morning that while there is a lot of support President Zelensky, the U.S. needs to be careful in how they handle this situation with Russia. If I'm not thinking, my immediate thought, bomb the out of them. But apparently, folks smarter than myself have said, maybe that's not the right option in the overall scheme of things. Welcome into Wake Up Columbia. I am Branden. Rathert, Stephanie Bell's back on Monday. Brian Hauswirth, Hannah, the producer, is here. His state rep, Chuck Basie, who's joining us on the show now. We've been talking about daylight saving time passed with huge support in the Senate. Yesterday goes to the House and then potentially, eventually, to Joe's desk. Chuck Basie been working on this locally for several years in Jefferson City. So we've been focused on a lot of other things, Representative Basie. What's been happening in Jefferson City? Things that could eventually affect us, down the road here.
Well, yeah, we passed a lot of bills in the House. I mean, I think some are very, very good. The one that really sticks out is we passed just the week before we left is the No Patient Left Alone Act, and that was very near and dear to my heart. It was 4 bills merged into one. And that basically is more or less a COVID-related thing. Hopefully we'll never go through that again. But what that bill would do, it would allow family members to visit their loved ones, in whether it's a nursing facility or a hospital. And, we went through that with my mother. Didn't get to see her till 3 days before she passed away. And that was almost, I think, 7 weeks that she was isolated in a hospital room. And I'm not going to do what some of my colleagues did. I just cannot fault the healthcare workers. They were doing the best they could, and we cannot complain about the treatment my mother was given. So, but I thought that was very, very good piece of legislation.
That is, and I'll tell you, and because think about somebody who's in the hospital, especially let's say you're dealing, and my mom just got out of the Truman VA yesterday. She had a slight stroke over the weekend. By the way, Truman VA, you hear this nationwide. You hear this in the VA circles. My experience with Truman VA over the past 7 years has just been remarkable, and it's to the people that work. It's just remarkable. But think about this. When somebody is hospitalized for whatever reason, and we saw this over the past years, people couldn't get in, couldn't see their family members. And, you can talk to the people that are administering the health care, to your mom, to your father, to whoever it is. But to be there and to make some more of these decisions, plus, you have a mom, Chuck, and you experienced this. You know what you're talking about. A mom who was dying, and this woman, in effect, died alone in her last few days. And that's just simply wrong. And again, it's not about the healthcare workers. They're just doing what they have been forced to do. State Rep Chuck Basie, anything else you would like to add to be of service to the citizens here in mid-Missouri this morning?
Well, it's not really related to Missouri legislation anyway, but you mentioned what was going on over in Ukraine. That's very kind of near and dear to us. We have a son in the military that's over in Germany right now, and I know that he can't really say a whole lot, but we've talked about a few times, and I have other acquaintances that have been called back up out of the reserves that are over there. So there's a lot going on over there, but my thoughts are with the men and women over there that are serving in our military. So hopefully it will not involve any conflict with them. But if it does, I'm very, very proud of all of them and their efforts.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Basie, and thank you for your service to our country and the work that you continue to do for people that are in the military, for the work that you do for military families and veterans. State Rep Chuck Basie here on 93.9 The Eagle. Thank you for your time. And you think about, so we're paying more for gas, and we see what's happening on the TV there in Ukraine, and you think, my goodness, it's heartbreaking. And we have people here. I know of at least eight people that are in Europe right now, kind of okay, what are we going to do? 8 people that live here where we live. We have students at Mizzou that are from Ukraine, and every day, can you imagine trying to do all this schoolwork, and you're worried, hey, did my family get bombed in a subway this morning? Goodness. Good morning, 6:58, 93.9 The Eagle.
Send more help. I'm Chris Foster. Fox News. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky speaks to members of Congress this morning about his country's fight against the Russian military invasion. Here's Fox's Tanya J. Powers.
President Zelensky is expected to thank the U.S. for the military help it's given to Ukraine so far and may make the plea for it to go even farther. The speech will be live streamed into the U.S. Capitol. It could include another request for President Biden to send warplanes, something he has resisted. It's not a joint session or a meeting of Congress, but all members have been invited to attend the event that starts at 9 o'clock Eastern. Following the address, President Biden is expected to deliver his own remarks detailing $800 million in additional security help for Ukraine. Chris.
Well, Tanya, the first interest rate hike in more than 3 years expected to be announced by the Federal Reserve Bank today, trying to help fight inflation. It means higher borrowing costs for new mortgage and car loans and credit card balances. An unsuccessful missile launch from North Korea.
South Korea's military said North Korea fired an unidentified projectile, but that launch looks to have ended in failure. The U.S. and South Korea said last week that North Korea had tested an ICBM system in recent launches. No word yet on what this latest launch was, but the North has been saying it recently tested systems for spy satellite. U.S. forces in the Korean Peninsula have ramped up readiness in response to those launches. U.S. Forces Korea said in a press release Tuesday they've increased the intensity of their military exercises to demonstrate their capabilities. Jill Nato, Fox News.
The Senate unanimously approves a bill to make daylight saving time, what we're in now, permanent. 12 states already keep it that way year-round. It would mean no more moving the clock twice a year for everybody else, with less light in the morning and more in the evening year-round. The proposal now goes to the House. There was a committee hearing about it last week. Daylight saving time started in 1942, was in effect year-round until 1945 as a wartime way to save fuel. America's listening to Fox News.
If you're living with aches and pains, especially if they're frequent and nagging and relentless, I want you to take a moment and think back to the last time you really felt good. Can you even remember what it felt like? Now, here's even a more important question. What would you give to go back to feeling like that again? Maybe it would just be nice to take a stroll with your loved one or play with your grandchildren. I've suffered from persistent, crippling pain almost all the time for about 5 years. When I started taking Relief Factor, I took it because my wife made me start taking it. I didn't think it would work for me. Yet here I am today, virtually pain-free, doing the things I love to do, all thanks to my wonderful wife and Relief Factor. I love that it's not a drug, but it was developed by doctors, and about 70% of the people who try it go on to order more. Are you part of that 70% that can get your life back? Your first step to becoming pain-free just might be to order the 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Go to relieffactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF. Find out more about this offer. Feel the difference. relieffactor.com.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 7:03 right now. We do have clear skies in mid-Missouri. We're expecting highs today up into the 60s. It's 45 right now in Columbia. Our sunrise this morning, 7:19. Our sun will set at 7:17. Our days gradually getting a little bit longer. Good morning, everyone, and here's some of the stories that we are working on for you on this busy Wednesday morning. We begin with a jury expected to hear opening statements here this morning in about an hour or so. The trial of a Columbia man charged with beating a man to death in June 2020. Jury selection took place all day Tuesday at the Boone County Courthouse for David Edward Myers' trial. He is charged with second-degree murder. Myers is accused of killing 39-year-old Anthony Lockwood by beating him with either a pole or a stick after an argument. It happened on a street called Sycamore Hills. The Boone County Sheriff's Department investigating the death as a homicide. Sycamore Hills is north of Columbia. It's near the Hinton area, northwest of Columbia, near Creasy Springs. Myers' attorneys expected to argue self-defense. And again, the opening statements expected sometime this morning. Meantime, Boone County's veteran prosecutor says Joe Anthony Johnson could be the most prolific serial rapist in the county's history. The 32-year-old Johnson is currently serving a 100-year prison sentence for rape and sodomy involving incidents in 2015 and 2016. In an interview in his office, Prosecutor Dan Knight telling Mark Slavitt of Channel 13 and me that he hopes this case raises awareness for young women who go to bars in downtown Columbia.
This is an ongoing problem, and I was always hopeful that would be something, there would be a deterrent effect, but there would also be this component where people who are going to bars and things like that would be more aware that this is what can happen.
Johnson is serving a 100-year sentence at the state's maximum security prison in southern Missouri's Licking. Johnson convicted of 2 counts of rape, 2 counts of sodomy, and also involving 4 victims. The mother of Johnson testified during the trial that her son's actions were not criminal. Jury selection will begin Monday morning in Jefferson City in a high-profile 2018 homicide.
Juwan Worley is charged with first-degree murder and other crimes in the shooting death of 33-year-old Justin Camerich back in December of 2018 at an apartment complex off West Atchison Street. Worley was only 16 at the time of the shooting. A second 20-year-old victim survived the attack. John Marsh, 93.9 The Eagle.
Here in Boone County, Clerk Brianna Lennon is forecasting a 15% voter turnout for the April election. Columbia voters will be electing a new mayor since incumbent Brian Trace is not seeking re-election. Voters in the southern Boone R1 Ashland District will cast ballots on a $3 million bond issue to improve aging outdoor facilities at the high school. Southern Boone officials say there are safety issues in Ashland with this football and soccer field caused by wet weather and usage in September and October. The bond issue would pay for new artificial turf. It would also resurface the track, which is more than 20 years old. Commerce Department says a $1.3 million federal grant from the Biden administration to expand Columbia's popular farmers market will increase the capacity for local vendors to sell their products. Farmers market takes place Saturday mornings 9 to noon on West Ash. Farmers market executive director Karina Smith tells 93.9 The Eagle the funding will help finish and expand the pavilion. She notes there are currently 98 stalls meals. 40 of them are covered. Project will provide more access to locally grown food, according to Governor Mike Parson, who's praising the grant as well. Missouri's first electric cooperative has moved its annual meeting from July to September so they can use the brand new facilities being built at Columbia's Range Line and I-70 for their drive-through event. Boone Electric building their new headquarters at that very visible location. I've just posted a new drone photo from Boone Electric up on our website, 939theeagle.com. The brickwork is starting. Boone Electric's Meredith Haynes tells 939 The Eagle their vehicle maintenance building should be done by the end of the month, if not next week. She also says the community room is still under construction. Boone Electric started 1936 with 140 members. They now have more than 30,000 members. Boone, Audrain, Callaway, Howard, Monroe, in Randolph counties. And a Columbia Transit Board hearing details from public works staff about the city's bus driver shortage. City down 11 full-time, 7 part-time drivers. The main issue, according to John Ogan of Columbia Public Works, is that they don't receive many applicants. Our news is brought to you live on this busy morning by the Candy Factory. The Candy Factory is in downtown Columbia. Anniversary, birthday, any day. You can find them online. TheCandyFactoryOnline.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 7:07. In sports, the Mizzou softball team is heading to Champaign-Urbana today, for a bragging rights doubleheader against the Fighting Illini. That will start today at noon. As I mentioned, at 6 o'clock. Some people call it Champaign. Some say Urbana, Champaign-Urbana. All of them, in my opinion, work. We'll call it Urbana here for the sake of it this morning. That is, of course, in central Illinois out of the Big Ten. The University of Missouri baseball team with 18...
Put way too much thought into it, Hauswirth.
I know. Absolutely. University of Missouri baseball piling up 18 runs, 17 hits to rout St. Louis, 18-4 yesterday. 7 innings on Tuesday evening at Taylor Stadium. Mizzou now 12-2 on the year. And the Mizzou women's basketball team hosting Drake tomorrow night in the NIT at Mizzou Arena. They'll tip it off at 7 o'clock. If you're interested in tickets, they're still selling them. 1-800-CAT-PAWS if you can't get to the game tomorrow night. 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock tip. KTGR FM 100.5. Brad Trinago will be courtside with Kathy for the call. Sports brought to you by Lacrosse Lumber. They're small enough for one-on-one service, big enough to have everything a contractor needs. Lacrosse is on Grindstone, just west of 63. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 7:09. All right, John, thanks. Our weather is brought to you this hour by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning. Log on to airserve.com. 45 degrees. Traffic check with MidmoHires.com. Local companies looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job. Post your job opening today. Road's pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri. We'll have more team coverage in less than 30 minutes. We have breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle. And be safe driving a truck.
As the day goes on, I look forward to others will be coming to the floor here in a moment. You'll see it's an eclectic collection of members of the United States Senate in favor of what we've just done here in the Senate, and that's to pass a bill to make a daylight savings time permanent.
So in other words, that's Marco Rubio, senator from Florida, and really a surprise move. Yesterday had the entire country going,
hey, what happened?
What happened?
What happened?
What happened?
Hey, what happened?
We didn't know this was going on. Like, where did this come from, man? Overwhelming support in the Senate yesterday, goes to the House, then Joe would eventually Senate, but to do away with or to keep daylight saving time, however they word it. I'll tell you, for such a simple issue, we change our clocks twice a year, not that big of a deal.
It's not?
No, it's not. For me, I change clocks. I don't even have to do that anymore. And I know, people, oh my God, I got to change the clock. I can't do it. It's like, my goodness. Chill, man. But people and our good friend Brad Trinago for years. I mean, you get him on daylight saving time, man, and this guy would go to town. Chuck Basie for years would be coming on and talking. We called it the Brad Trinago Act of 2015 because that's how long we'd been working on it for 7 years. But it was great because it was something that everybody on both sides, 3 sides of the aisle, whatever you want to call it, they were able to get together on something. And listen, I know there's some people, they shouldn't work together on anything. There are some things, if you're a realist, there are some things they have to work together on. And it's a simple issue because I think, people like to complain about it. It's just really not that big of a deal, but it's something that people agreed on, and it's moving forward. Boom, just like that.
It really is, and it is bipartisan. And again, I think it is interesting. Marco Rubio, of course, has Missouri ties. Went to college at Tarkio, so he spent time in Missouri. There's a similar bill, Branden, and we touched on this with. And I'll keep this short, but I want to make a health point on this. When Chuck Basie was on with us, we talked about Chris Sanders' bill. Sander is his name, but Sanders' bill. He's from Lone Jack, and his bill passed 11-1 in committee. And I'm reading it right now. Pretty straightforward bill, very similar to what Senator Rubio's doing at the federal level. But there is a written testimony here. I'll just read a couple sentences. This is from the Missouri State Medical Association. And what they're saying is that they are saying if we keep Missouri on one standard time, that it would help people in terms of basically it's saying multiple studies have demonstrated an increased risk for heart attacks, strokes, fatal car crashes as negative health consequences of moving the clock forward in the spring for daylight savings time. They're saying they're saying that daylight saving time is a public health problem and that it's not only detrimental to health, but it's unpopular. I have not heard them come out and take a position until this written testimony here. So that's pretty significant.
Do we know, where they're getting the information that it's bad for your health from?
Oh, they're quoting this is a doctor. His name is David Kuhlman, Kuhlmann, a doctor out of Bothwell Hospital in Sedalia, board member, American Academy of Sleep Medicine. He's citing the studies he has that they don't go into detail, but Hannah, for people that want to read it, it's house.mo.gov, and you can click on his written testimony on the bill and then actually read it. But he's saying that he's citing about strokes and heart attacks.
That just seems like a stretch to me.
So, and I agree with Hannah. But over the years, apparently there's study after study after study after study that says, yep, around these times of years there's increased health issues. But I still don't believe it. I don't believe that by moving the clock for an hour, we collectively as a nation lose our common sense and can't drive. I just don't believe that moving the clock for an hour is that big of a deal. I'm fine either way. Welcome into the show. It's Wake Up Columbia. By the way, Stephanie Bell is going to be back here on Monday. But isn't it weird how it's... Because this date, what happened in the Senate yesterday, I would still have to move forward, and it would be actually November of 2023 before it would actually take effect. The reasoning has to do apparently with the Department of Transportation scheduling of flights and a lot of things that have to happen. But think about how many pieces of legislation can you name that affects every single person in the United States of America, regardless of age, socioeconomic status, regardless of profession, regardless of the color of somebody's skin, if there are still people that are judging people based on the color of their skin. I'm trying to think what other pieces of legislation affects. Nobody will be unaffected by this. There are very few pieces of legislation, whether you talk Jeff City or D.C., that affect every single person.
No question about it. And I would cover this every year when I was at the Capitol, and I was amazed how little media coverage these bills would get. I think some media thought probably didn't have a good chance to get out of the Senate, but I feel like it's newsworthy. Well, it doesn't matter if it's not going to get out of the Senate or not. It's news. And what you just said is absolutely correct. It impacts everyone. And the fact that you have, and Hannah raises a point, there are others that are disagreeing with about health, but bottom line, it affects everyone. And people have strong positions, but when you have doctors saying it causes strokes, et cetera, and then you have others saying kids are going to be going to school out in the dark in the morning, and it could impact them at the bus stop. It does impact. It impacts older people, younger people. So, yeah, there's definitely a huge, I would think there'd be huge interest in the state and federal bills.
But see, it doesn't impact me, so it shouldn't impact anybody else. That's my mindset. And because there are a few things. Remember back in August, I think I made the prediction, things were going bad, everything sucked, gas prices were already going up, and I said we need some kind of disaster to bring us together.
Yep, I do remember that.
I do remember that, yes.
And then the Afghanistan happened. But what happened, people started to come together as a country and go, man, this is bad, and man, we feel for our Americans that are there. We feel for the human lives that are there, people just trying to get out of there. But it brought us together. There's another story that happened, it's an ongoing story, that's kind of bringing, I guess, people from different political persuasions and even different journalistic outlets kind of bringing people together. And I think it is important to mention that it happens to be a cameraman for the mothership for Fox News. Guy was killed. And you think about what journalists do. You know, all of the images, the video, the pictures, the stories that we're hearing coming from Ukraine. You know who's bringing you that? Journalists.
That's right.
And you have some situations of citizen journalists, but it's journalists. How do they get the story? They go there, put on the flak jackets and the helmets, and keep their fingers crossed and hope, hey, I'm not going to be a casualty of war. I'm going to drive down the streets, try to get this story, to try to capture the footage so I can send it out worldwide so I can keep people informed about, hey, this is what's happening on the streets of Ukraine. Covering that, there's a chance of death.
Yes.
And this journalist photographer from Fox News and a producer who is working for Fox, she was actually from Ukraine, but she was doing production work for Fox there. She was also killed, and a reporter for Fox was injured. But in effect, it's kind of bringing people together. As a matter of fact, I think on MSNBC they were talking about this guy, and then CNN's Anderson Cooper was speaking with their chief international correspondent. Her name is Clarissa Ward, and she was talking about her time in working with Pierre Zakrzewski.
He's one of the most extraordinarily kind, generous, talented, gracious people you could ever imagine working with. He really was the real deal, Pierre. He cared so much about these stories. Every war zone you went to, Pierre was there. This was his life. This was his passion. He was dedicated to it.
So that's happening. Somebody just singing the praises of this guy, this Pierre Zakrzewski, on CNN. So, you know, bringing people together. But it seems like it's always these bad things. Sloppy pullouts, Afghanistan, bringing people together. High prices nationwide, whether it's groceries, energy costs, gasoline, whatever it is, everything through the roof. And that's uniting, I think, people are saying, hey, what's happening here? Because this stuff wasn't happening before. But, man, since like January 20th of 2021, all these negative things are happening. And it is bringing people together of all political persuasions, even people that voted for Joe. And I'm not trying to make you feel bad if you voted for Joe. I'm just trying to politely ask you, hey, look at the facts of what's happening and think about that in the 2024 presidential election. This is a great opportunity for us to get some younger folks turned on to the ideas of what being a conservative is, because those progressive liberal news outlets are painting us in very inaccurate ways. We're racist, we're old white guys, and that stuff simply is just not true. It's not true. But the progressive news outlets, that's how they portray us. And younger people, okay, because they believe what they're told. It's like when I was young, I believed that the 3 R's were reading, writing, and arithmetic. I believed it because I was young. That's what I was told. That's what young people do. Young people have they have a sense of discovery up until a certain age, and then they lose that sense of discovery. A child's sense of discovery, a young person, a teenager's sense of discovery is what is told to them by teachers, by parents, by any news that they might consume, because they're impressionable. They don't know how to think for themselves yet. And I was there too, by the way. I used to be a kid. I used to be young, Hannah. It was a long time ago, but I used to be young. And this is a golden opportunity for conservatives, whether it's conservative news outlets, whether it's literature, books, what have you, to say, hey, listen, here's what conservatism is about. But it is a shame. So you've got the even the White House yesterday, Jen Psaki giving kudos to this Pierre Zakrzewski. But it seems like anytime there's something that brings us together as a country, and of course, I guess one of the greatest examples would be Pearl Harbor back in the 40s, 9/11. Tragedy, but it brings us all together. Coming up, we're going to be doing What's Hot with Hannah today. What's on the frying pan today?
Well, I'm going to TikTok for my information because that's a great idea.
Right?
And I'm sharing a life hack.
By the way, we're against everything China except for TikTok, which is Chinese. But hey, it's fun. What's Hot with Hannah? We'll do that coming up 7.
Uh-huh.
In the landscaping, and if that's you, that's awesome. But what about your equipment? When was the last time you sharpened the blades on your mower? When was the last time you changed out spark plugs, oil changes, things like that? There's a lot of maintenance that should be done on chainsaws and weed eaters. Salter does that too. Yeah, they maintain that stuff for you. Fix it, get it ready for spring. So that one phone call today should be to Salter. Salter Lawn Service. Salter, one call does it all.
Hi, this is the voice of the Tigers, Mike Kelly. This is Wake Up Columbia on Hot Talk 93.9. The Eagle. Branden, Rathert? I don't know any Rathert.
Automatically a fun place to be because of that. And I support it. Randy talked about a Wabash warming
city. One of the things we thought about was like, well, you don't want to limit growth because growth is like development, economic development for the town.
Columbia trash bags.
The last person there, that was Tanya Heath, mayoral candidate for City of Columbia. Trash bags. I think you could win and win on that issue alone. Another mayoral forum last night, that audio from KOMU. They sponsored this event. Randy Minchew, mayoral candidate, is going to be joining us at 8:10, and I have invited another mayoral candidate. They're all going to be on again prior to the election in April, but there's a mayoral candidate. So I've said today, and I don't do endorsements. I just think it's, endorsing a candidate. Like, who the hell am I? I'm just some blue-collar dude in the heartland of America. But I have said this is who I will vote for. I would vote for today, the election were today. With what I know now, I would vote for Randy Minchew for mayor. There is a candidate for mayor who has asked that I make her our second choice. I love that spunk. Because you get people all the time, they have high-level meetings. You have people going to Mar-a-Lago begging for endorsements, begging for them. And here we have somebody locally that's asking us to make them their number 2 choice. I just love that spunk. We'll reveal who that is. Coming up at 8:10 this morning here on 93.9 The Eagle and 93.9theeagle.com, where you can listen live. 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:28.
Time for What's Hot with Hannah.
We've talked about how if you're making people on both sides of the political divide angry, that you're probably winning. Well, if you post a TikTok that people then write news articles about, you're probably winning. This is a grocery store hack that people are mad about. A girl took a suitcase to Aldi and packed up all of her groceries in her suitcase and took it home in her suitcase, and people are upset about it. I think it's genius.
I do too.
Yeah, because nobody likes to carry in multiple bags of groceries. I don't care who you are.
And just the visual. If I'm at the grocery store and I see somebody walking around with a suitcase full of groceries, I'm like, that's almost as cool as a mayoral candidate asking to be your number 2 choice publicly in the race. That's cool.
Well, especially at these grocery stores where they don't send you with a bunch of bags, you have to pay for them. A suitcase is genius.
I love it. One of the other things besides mayor, city council positions, school board positions, by the way, another important thing, use tax. In Boone County in Columbia, basically, people from out of town, they buy stuff from here. It's an internet sales tax. Former city manager of Columbia, John Glascock, he knows a thing or two about this, and he's not in city government anymore. What does he have to say about it? He's here at 7:35. ABC 17 Storm Track forecast, 76 today, 71 tomorrow. Right now, checking in at 47. Weather brought to you by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning. Ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. AIRESCRV.com.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. As Russian attacks intensify, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky makes a virtual appeal to Congress this morning, likely not getting what he wants most.
A no-fly is a no-go for the commander-in-chief, Joe Biden, because that introduces the possibility of shooting at Russian pilots. So the president is going to give medical equipment and radar equipment and some anti-aircraft Stinger missiles.
Fox's Peter Ducey at the White House. And in the Senate, bipartisan support to make daylight saving time permanent.
Florida Republican Marco Rubio is a sponsor of the legislation, arguing there are reasons beyond just that inconvenience.
See an increase in heart attacks and car accidents and pedestrian accidents in the week that follow the changes.
Permanent time change still needs approval in the House. No vote there is yet scheduled.
Fox's Jared Halpern. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 7:31 right now. We do have bright sunshine, or at least the sun trying to come out right now. Very clear. Going to be a beautiful morning. It's 44 right now in Columbia. Our high today will be in the mid-60s. Our sunrise this morning at 7:19. It will set at 7:17 tonight. Good morning, everyone. Here's some of the stories we are working on for you at this hour. Opening statements expected to begin a little bit later today at the Boone County Courthouse. The trial of a Columbia man accused of beating a man to death in 2020. 56-year-old David Myers charged with second-degree murder for the June 2020 death of Anthony Lockwood of Columbia. The incident happened on Sycamore Hills Road near Creasy Springs. The court documents indicate the two men were involved in some type of argument. Myers allegedly beat the victim to death with a pole. Defense attorneys expected to argue self-defense in this case. Boone County's clerk predicting a 15% voter turnout for the April election. Voters in Columbia, Ashland, Boone County will be casting ballots in April on local use tax issues. Coming up after this newscast, we'll have a live interview with former Columbia City Administrator John Glascock. A use tax is a sales tax on online sales. We'll talk about that use tax, the importance of it. CPS patrons will vote on an $80 million bond issue in April. Missouri's Republican governor praising the Biden administration's $1.3 million federal grant to expand Columbia's popular farmers market. More on this, 939theeagle.com. And Cori Bush's memoir coming out this fall. She's the congresswoman from St. Louis City. She'll talk about her decision to run for office in 2020. News brought to you this hour by Dr. Kent Willett Dental Associates at 7:33. In sports, the Mizzou softball team heading to Illinois today, a bragging rights doubleheader against Illinois. That'll start at noon today in Champaign-Urbana today for Mizzou. Now, the Mizzou baseball team beating St. Louis University, the Billikens, yesterday by a score of 18-4. And the Mizzou women's basketball team in action tomorrow night. Tickets are still available. That is an NIT game at Mizzou Arena in Columbia tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. The tip-off, 6:45 pregame on KTGR, FM 100.5 if you can't go. Brad Trinago and Kathy will be courtside. They'll have the call for you. They've done a great job all season long on the radio. If you're interested in tickets, 1-800-CAT-PAWS is the number to call. Our sports is brought to you by Betts Jewelers. For gifts that last a lifetime, visit Betts. They're in downtown Columbia. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 7:34. Traffic check, MidmoHires.com. Local companies looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job, post your job opening today. The roads right now are pretty quiet in mid-Missouri, or so they seem to be. We hope that continues. If you have any information or if we're missing something, certainly let us know. Our phone number, you can call or text 573-874-9390. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. We have breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Are there any senators in the chamber wishing to vote or wishing to change their vote? If not, the yeas are 69, the nays are 27. The bill as amended is agreed to.
That was the Senate 8 years ago, U.S. Senate passing the internet sales tax bill. What about locally? That was one, that used to be, especially in the early days of the internet, as wild, wild west. Still, maybe to an extent today, is still kind of the wild, wild west. One of the big things, I can buy stuff tax-free. I love that idea. Love the internet, man. I can get whatever I want, and I can buy stuff, and I can get it cheaper. And I don't know, is everything on the internet, is it actually cheaper anymore? That used to be, I think, the appeal. It was cheaper, it was cheaper, it was cheaper. And part of that appeal, part of the lower prices for some items, because, and I don't have to pay sales tax on it because I'm buying it on the internet. It was kind of like this big private nightclub that people thought only a few people could get into this nightclub. There's only a few people knew you could get on the internet and buy stuff that's cheaper, and you don't have to pay taxes. But the thing was, everybody knew about the nightclub, and all of a sudden the nightclub, it wasn't cool anymore. Just like buying things on the internet. Coming up in April, so we're going to be voting on school board members. If the election were today, from what I know, I would vote for Adam Burks and Andrea Lisenby. They would best serve our school children and its parents. That is my opinion. If the mayoral race were today, I would vote for Randy Minchew. He's going to be here at 8:10. Also, we're going to reveal we have a mayoral candidate who's saying, hey, listen, if you're saying you're going to vote for Randy, that's fine, but will you make me your number 2 choice? I love that. That is spunk, man. Somebody's, okay, so you're not going to vote. But can you make us your number 2? We'll reveal that coming up at 8:10. And also, internet use tax locally, Boone County, and separately, the city of Columbia. I want to bring in former city manager John Glascock on the show. So let's set this up a little bit, Mr. Glascock. How does somebody from out of town, let's say, I guess is the scenario I'm looking at, that buy something from here, they're not paying any local sales tax. They have contributed. Besides, they've supported a local business, but they haven't contributed anything to our tax base, despite taking advantage of some of the goods from mid-Missouri. Do I have that correct?
Well, anybody that shops in Columbia does pay a local sales tax, and it does support our police, which if a crime happens while they're here in our town, we support them. So they do get support from us, even though they might live out of town.
So what does this do? So we're losing a large portion of dollars because we're not tagging people with sales taxes. Now, and I want to try to make sure that I'm parsing through this carefully, because I'm, for the most part, not in favor of any kind of tax increase. I'm just not. But then I'm also a realist, and I like to think I somewhat think things through, and I'm realistic about things. And I look at the amount of money that we as the community are losing because other people getting online, they're buying stuff and not having to pay a sales tax. I'm not in favor of any kind of tax increases or new taxes, but I'll tell you this, John, I'm a big fan of our small local business community. And I think it's important that we level the playing field. I know there's some other folks that are in favor of this, but they're kind of hesitant, apparently, to speak publicly about it. And I get that, because it's a tax increase. That's how it's a tax increase. But there's actually, in my opinion, John, I think there's some good things to this. How do you break this down?
Well, as I said before, and you said, it's leveling the playing field for our local shops that people come here and support. We love our local businesses, and the way we can support them is by shopping here. The problem is as you stated before, some things are cheaper on the internet, and some people like to save $1, and basically, when you shop, the city's portion of that sales tax is 2%. And so let's say, you buy a $100 item on the internet, we're losing $2 on that item. And so, that goes to support our police. That goes to fill the potholes in the streets. That goes for our fire departments, which is where the bulk of that general fund money, sales tax, goes to. And so, to level the playing field, we want to support our local businesses by doing that. And so, for me, it's very important that we pass this to level that playing field for our local businesses, and we can continue to have the services that we so truly need and want here in the city of Columbia.
Former city manager of Columbia.
I'll also tell you, Brian, or Branden, if you buy it online and you don't pay the sales tax and somebody steals it from your front porch, you technically didn't buy police support to have somebody go investigate that. It's just gone. And so when you think you're saving and something happens to you with that piece there or whatever you buy on the internet, you don't have that support of the police. And so, or shouldn't have, because you didn't pay for it.
Yep. And I think estimates are this would bring in for the city of Columbia, I believe, about $5 million a year. And this, so for the most part, probably as I understand it, because again, we're talking about a tax thing, and I just don't like anything with new taxes, what have you. But this would mostly affect not people here unless you spend a lot of time buying stuff online. And I think some businesses do actually collect sales taxes. But here's what it is. I'm guessing Jeff Jones, he'd like to have a few more officers on the force.
Yep.
I was telling somebody the other day, John, and they were making that argument, Chief Jeff Jones would like to and probably could use and need some extra officers on the force. We want to make sure our firefighters, all those people are taken care of. And it occurred to me, but even more importantly, not only does Chief Jeff Jones probably want more in law enforcement on our streets just to make sure everything is good, but the people of Columbia. And here's Here's the thing. You know what would be a great campaign, I think, for this? Marketing-wise. All the potholes, which, by the way, MoDOT already is doing a great job of filling. But you put up a billboard of a pothole and say, hey, you want this fixed? Vote in favor of this internet use tax.
I agree. This time of year, that's the number one thing is potholes.
All right, former city manager John Glascock hanging out with us here on Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle.
Branden, thanks so much. To Branden's point, Branden referencing the money and also the police. The use tax supporters, Matthew Liu, the finance director, says the use tax would generate $5.6 million annually in additional revenue. And in terms of public safety, Mr. Liu told me that Columbia could fund and maintain, if approved, if the ballot measure is approved, Columbia could fund and maintain 7 new firefighters and 8 new police officers with the use tax revenue. Mr. Glascock, I'm going to ask you just one quick question, the same question I asked Mr. Liu, and it's simple, but I think very important. Columbia and Ashland, and we'll take Ashland out of the equation here for just a moment, but Columbia and Boone County, although Ashland's voting separately as well, Columbia and Boone County are voting on separate use tax issues. They will both be on the ballot in Columbia is Proposition 1. So if you live in Columbia, you're going to be voting on 2 different Proposition 1s, one for Columbia, one for Boone County. Are you worried people will get confused and think, well, I've already voted on this, I'm just going to skip that? Do you worry about that?
Well, anytime you have similar taxes or things that you're asking the public to vote on, there's always going to be confusion on that. So, yes, when you have 2 Proposition 1s, yeah, that's going to be confusing. But you do live in Columbia. If you live in Columbia, you also live in Boone County, and they each have their separate use tax rates.
And I'll say this, people talk about, for example, who would you vote for mayor? I'm like, well, I would vote for this person because I think they're best for Columbia. And that is a different question than who do you think will win? And it could be the same thing for a lot of these other issues, but that's what I have to, anytime I'm talking to somebody about local politics, John, I have to say, well, this is what I like, and this is the person. But we live in Columbia. We're a very liberal town. And as far as use tax is concerned, an issue that we're going to be voting on citywide and separately countywide next month in these elections. Is there anything else that you wanted to add on this issue? Because you sit in a unique position, several months removed from your position as a city manager, longtime employee with the city, and now you're not in it, so you kind of know what you're talking about, and you don't have to worry about upsetting anybody that works in the city of Columbia. Anything else you need to add to this that you think is important?
Well, I just think people need to really, if you're really here to support local business and those things, you need to vote for this use tax. You need to vote yes on both of them, actually, because I really believe we could use more law enforcement and more material to patch potholes with.
And I got to ask you this before we let you go. How you liking retirement so far?
You know what? When you asked me to do this, I thought, well, I better call in because I don't know if I'll get up on time to get in there.
Okay. And that is a great answer to how is retirement going? John Glascock, former city manager of Columbia. We'll look forward to chatting again real soon.
Have a good one, Branden.
All right. Thank you. Some interesting text comments on this is, if you don't pay taxes, the police will not assist you. So the story there was, and John Glascock put this like, hey, so let's say you bought something, you haven't paid the taxes, sales tax, because you paid for it on the internet, it gets stolen. What do? You call police. So in effect, in that transaction, police are coming to help you, even though buying that item, you didn't contribute, in effect, to that. And I think it's a decent way to put it. And I don't think anybody is saying that no, the police will not assist you. It's just it's an interesting way to think about this. Also, no new taxes. I hear you on that. How many new parks can the city build with the new tax? God, city parks, they have 3 revenue streams already. Dear Lord, please don't come and ask for another. Coming up, another Biden nomination. She's just saying, you know what? I'm withdrawing my nomination. You know, when you don't even get to the finish line and you get a second or third place finish, if you just like quit before the race, that's how bad it is, not just for you, but the current administration in Washington, D.C. The latest person to drop out. We'll do that coming up at 7:51 here on 93.9 The Eagle and 93.9theeagle.com. Big event happening in town this weekend. $20 at the door for the Como Man Show. I got details on how you can get a $5
Hi, this is Henry, and I'm Brandon's dad. My favorite show on 93.9 The Eagle is The Gary Nolan Show.
We did it. We did it, Joe.
I agree with the vice president. Y'all sure did do it. You did it. As things continue to go poorly for the administration, you had rising fuel prices prior to Russia-Ukraine. You had rising grocery prices, home heating, home energy costs. All this stuff is going up. These are things that are affecting us this morning and still affecting us. They've been affecting us since January 20th, 2021. That can't be denied. You can just look at simple graphs, charts, numbers, and go, huh. And my hope is really, I'm big on this messaging to this younger generation because Joe's got kids from TikTok telling us, no, these gas prices, that's not Joe's fault. It's all because of Russia and Ukraine. And we know that is factually inaccurate. Now, if we're being honest with ourselves and with other people, yeah, we know over the past 3 to 4 weeks, we know why gas prices have gone up. Doesn't explain why they were going up before. Doesn't explain why cherub tomatoes are so expensive anymore. Doesn't explain all these other issues having it, but Joe's getting kids, by the way, from a Chinese-owned social media platform. So he's relying on the Chinese to tell Americans, no, you see, you got it all wrong. He's relying on TikTok, which is owned by China. He's relying on them to tell us why we've got it wrong. They're crazy. They're insane. And more evidence that this whole administration, I could give you the latest from Real Clear Politics, the numbers that continue to show, man, just the presidential approval ratings. We know those have been really at historic lows. We know inflation is at historic highs. So these are things I hope that, like when you talk to somebody that I don't know, whether they're Democrat, progressive, middle of the road, I think these are things where we have an opportunity to have polite conversations, polite factual conversations, not arguments. You can be a master debater all day long. You can debate all day long. You might even be a master at it. At the end of the day, so what? If you haven't accomplished, you've won an argument. So have you affected change on somebody else that could potentially vote for a conservative? Have you changed their mind? If you haven't, you've won the argument, but you have accomplished, I would say, nothing. But these are things that we can have polite conversations about with independents. Democrats say, see, okay, well, let's look at what's been happening since this guy has been president. That's all. And you can start with some simple questions. Do you like paying higher energy prices to heat and cool your home? Do you like that? Do you like the fact that Joe killed 13 of our American service members in Afghanistan because it was such a sloppy pullout? Ask these people, how does that settle with you? One of these guys, a Marine from right down I-70 in Wentzville. Do you like paying higher prices for groceries? Do you like doing all this stuff? Do you like that mindset? Do you like what's happening? Do you like, and ask these people, do you like that we look like 4-year-old kids on a worldwide stage, and we've looked that way since January 20th, 2021. And ask these questions. You don't have to win the argument. Ask these questions. You don't have to be a master debater. Just ask these questions. We can do it politely. So here's more proof. Another Biden nominee said, never mind, I quit. Won't even go to a vote. Sarah Bloom Raskin withdrew her nomination to a position on the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors after a key Democrat had joined with all Senate Republicans to oppose her confirmation. So there's two big things here. Number one, so who was the Democrat that was announced they were going to oppose this nomination, therefore making this a surefire thing that she wouldn't get the job? It was our friend Joe Manchin. Said, I just can't support it. So the other big thing, so that's the one big thing, Joe Manchin again saying, no, I just can't. I can't do it. Yeah, I know that she's being appointed by a president who I happen to be in the same party as our president, and I know he's appointed her. And then I know that the vice president, she would get the tie-breaking vote here. But you know what? I'm still not comfortable with confirming Sarah Bloom Raskin. So Joe Manchin said, So here's the big rub. Basically, this Sarah Bloom Raskin would use the Fed's regulatory authority because she wants to discourage banks from lending to oil and gas companies. In other words, her view is when it comes to regulatory authority, Federal Reserve, what is it? Is it the race card or is it climate change? It's climate change. It's climate change. Stunning. Big event coming up this week, and I'm excited about it. I love this. Como Man Show. More info on our website, 939theeagle.com. I want to thank our friends that have been helping us out for a while on this. Our friends at Shepherd's Distributing, Sidon, Stricker, Noby, Doolittle Trailer Manufacturing, also Jones Farm, Home, and Auto, Avidity Corporation, Harley-Davidson, Mid-America Harley-Davidson going to be there, as is Show Me Barbecue Sauce and PCA Guns. Saturday, 10 to 3, Holiday Inn Executive Center. And it's only $20 at the door. There's music, there's contests, there's food, there's fun, there's drink. I mean, it's just this big thing. It's cool. You walk around and you see, oh, man, Joe, I haven't seen you for a while. Hey, Bob, how's it going? It's just a great event. $20 at the door. But here's a little pro tip. I can get you $5 off. Here's how. Go to our website, 939theeagle.com. And you go there and you'll see the Como Man Show, which is coming up this Saturday. And you'll see tickets, $20 at the door. Or you could buy online right now, and tickets will save you $5. Only $15 and totally worth it. Another mayoral forum last night in the city of Columbia. As a matter of fact, one of the candidates, Randy Minchew, he is going to be joining us at 8:10. And then we want to reveal the candidate who has said, hey, so you say right now that you're voting for Randy Minchew. Can I get your second? That's interesting. I love the spunk of this person. Who was that? That's coming up at 8:10 this morning here on 93.9 The Eagle.
Thanks for everything. Now do more, please. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. As the Russian military continues its assault on towns and cities in Ukraine, Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky speaks to Congress this morning.
Every member of the House and Senate has been invited to an auditorium here in the Capitol complex to see a video address by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who's expected to make another appeal for increased military assistance.
Well, my guess is that everything he's going to request is something we ought to be doing.
But Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell says that would stop short of a no-fly zone. Enforcement would require U.S. pilots to engage with Russian aircraft.
There are a lot of weapons that are extremely effective in controlling the air.
Zelensky has asked for additional fighter jets. The Pentagon has raised concerns about a Polish offer to transfer a fleet of Soviet-era MiGs. On Capitol Hill, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
A bus carrying college golfers collides head-on with a pickup truck in Texas.
The accident caused multiple fatalities, including that of Tyler James, the coach of the men's and women's golf teams at the University of the Southwest, which is a private Christian school located in Hobbs, New Mexico. School president Quint Thurman said, "We are still learning the details about the accident, but we are devastated and deeply saddened to learn about the loss of our students' lives and their coach." Returning from a tournament in West Texas, members of the men's and women's golf teams were traveling in a 17-passenger bus when it collided with a Ford F-150 truck.
Fox's Jared Max. Retail sales rose 0.3% last month. That's weaker than most economists expected, and a big slowdown from the 4.9% increase in January. Moving into inflation fighting mode, the first interest rate hike since 2018, a quarter percentage point, is expected to be announced today by the Federal Reserve Bank. That rate hike flows through higher interest on credit cards, mortgages, and other loans. Some of those rates have already moved higher, though, with the Fed hike coming. America's listening to Fox News.
Life is about being active, whether it's about going on your daily tasks or exercising. You know you're well when you're regularly active. But what happens when being active actually hurts by the end of the day? This is the position I found myself in a number of years ago. Everything I wanted to do in my daily life, all of the activity it called for, was held captive to almost constant nagging pain. When I heard about Relief Factor, I was skeptical, but my wife said, "Give it a chance." Not long after I took it, I could feel the pain begin to melt away, and I've been taking it ever since. And I can tell you that Relief Factor has helped me get my life back. I love that it's not a drug, but it was developed by doctors, and about 70% of the people who try it go on to order more. Your first step to becoming pain-free just might be ordering a 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF, or ReliefFactor.com. Find out all about this offer and feel the difference.
.939 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 8:03. Right now we do have bright sunshine in Columbia, and we are warming up right now in Columbia. It's 48 degrees. Our high today will be around 76 degrees. Clear skies tonight with a low near 49. Tomorrow sunny and a high of 71 degrees. Good morning, everyone, and here's some of the stories that we are working on for you in this 8 o'clock hour. Folks, we're going to begin with some breaking news. I've just gotten off the phone moments ago with Boone County Joint Communications, and we have a vehicle that has collided with a motorcycle. This has happened within the last few minutes. Those of you out on Vandiver will see this. Burlington and Vandiver, a motorcycle has collided with a vehicle. The motorcyclist is down. We do not have any extent of any injuries right now. No details on that, but I have confirmed there's been a collision between a motorcycle and a vehicle at Burlington and Vandiver. Authorities are on scene as we speak. It's happened in the last few minutes. Avoid the area if at all possible. A jury is expected to hear opening statements here in the next few minutes in the trial of a Columbia man charged with beating a man to death in June 2020. Jury selection taking place Tuesday at the Boone County Courthouse for David Edward Myers' trial. He's charged with second-degree murder, accused of killing 39-year-old Anthony Lockwood by beating him with a pole after an argument. The Boone County Sheriff's Department investigating the death as a homicide. Myers' attorneys expected to argue self-defense in court. Boone County's longtime prosecutor says Joe Anthony Johnson could be the most prolific serial rapist in county history. Dan Knight made his comments during a recent interview with KRCG's Mark Slavin and me in his office. Mr. Knight led the prosecution against 32-year-old Johnson, who's now serving a 100-year prison sentence for 2 counts of rape, 2 counts of sodomy, and attempted sexual abuse.
We had 4 victims in that case, but there were more. There were more than that.
Prosecutors say Johnson met these 4 female victims at downtown Columbia bars and then sexually assaulted them at his apartment. Johnson's mother did testify during the trial back in 2017 that her son's actions were not criminal. Jury selection will be starting Monday morning in Cole County in a high-profile 2018 Jefferson City murder case.
Juwan Worley is charged with first-degree murder and other crimes in the shooting death of 33-year-old Justin Camerich back in December of 2018. at an apartment complex off West Atchison Street. Worley was only 16 at the time of the shooting. A second 20-year-old victim survived the attack. John Marsh, 93.9, The Eagle.
Boone County Clerk Brianna Lennon forecasting a 15% voter turnout for the April election. Columbia voters will be electing a new mayor since the incumbent Brian Treese is not seeking re-election. One of the big issues attracting attention is in southern Boone R1, the district there in Ashland, a $3 million bond issue to improve aging outdoor facilities at the high school. Southern Boone officials say there are safety issues with the football and soccer field in Ashland caused by wet weather and usage, primarily in the fall. September and October, the bond issue would pay for artificial turf, a new artificial turf, and resurface the track as well. That track more than 20 years old. Commerce Department says a $1.3 million federal grant to expand Columbia's popular farmers market will increase capacity for local vendors to sell their products. That farmers market is popular. It takes place on Saturday mornings, 9 to noon on West Ash. Farmers Market Executive Director Karina Smith tells the Eagle the funding will help finish and expand the pavilion. She notes there are 98 stalls right now. 40 of them are covered. Project will provide more access to locally grown food, according to Missouri's Governor Mike Parson. I have some drone photos from Karina, and I post them on our website, 939theeagle.com, and I show this pavilion, how it works as well. Missouri's first electric co-op has moved its annual meeting from July to September so they can use the brand new facilities being built at Columbia's Rangeline and I-70 for the drive-through event. And a Columbia Transit Board hearing details last night from Public Works crews about the city's bus shortage. 93.9 The Eagle News is brought to you this hour by the Callaway Bank. They're with you for the moments that matter. Our news time, 8:07. In sports, the Mizzou baseball team beating St. Louis University 18-4 yesterday. 7 innings at Taylor Stadium. That game last night here in Columbia. Mizzou now 12-2 on the year. And the Mizzou softball team heading to Urbana, Illinois today. A bragging rights doubleheader against the University of Illinois fighting Illini. That will start at noon today. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 8:07. And our weather is brought to you this hour by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. AirServe.com. 49 degrees and sunny. Traffic check with MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Our time here, 8:08. Again, if you missed the top of our newscast here, I've reported and I've confirmed with Boone County Joint Communications that a motorcyclist and a vehicle have collided at Vandiver and Burlington. And avoid the area if at all possible. We don't have any report right now on the extent of injuries of either the motorcyclist or the car driver, but avoid that area if at all possible. If you want to report a traffic issue, call or text us 573-874-9390. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Automatically a fun place to be because of that. I supported. Randy talked about a Wabash warming
City. One of the things we thought about was like, well, you don't want to limit growth because growth is like development, economic development for the town.
Columbia trash bags.
Trash bags. I think that should be that individual's trash bags. I think you could almost win the mayoral race in Columbia on that singular issue. That audio from KOMU Channel 8 last night doing a mayoral candidate forum. Randy Minchew, one of those folks running for mayor, is here now. Also going to reveal the candidate that has reached out and said, hey, you've said publicly that you would today vote for Randy Minchew, but can I be your number 2? And she's doing, I think, in a sense of humor. I know this individual has a sense of realism about herself. I think it's great. Right now, quickly, I want to go to Washington, D.C. Ukrainian President Zelensky is addressing Congress right now through an interpreter. And here's what we're hearing right now.
3 weeks now. Various Ukrainian cities, Odessa and Kharkiv, Chernihiv and Sumy, Zhytomyr and Lviv, Mariupol and Dnipro. Russia has turned the Ukrainian sky into a source of death for thousands of people. Russian troops have already fired nearly 1,000 missiles at Ukraine, countless bombs. They use drones to kill us with precision. This is a terror that Europe has not seen for 80 years, and we are asking for a reply, for an answer to this terror from the whole world. Is this a lot to ask for, to create a no-fly zone over Ukraine to save people? Is this too much to ask? Humanitarian no-fly zone, something that that Russia would not be able to terrorize our free cities. If this is too much to ask, we offer an alternative. You know what kind of defense systems we need, S-300 and other similar systems. You know how much depends on the battlefield, on the ability to use aircraft.
All right, that's Zelensky, Ukrainian President Zelensky, addressing Congress right now through an interpreter. And this guy, I tell you, the language that Zelensky has used to describe, I think, and capture not just the visuals of what's happening there right now to his people, but that emotional thing. He's used phrases like, it's raining death. I think the other day he was pleading for America, please make it stop raining death here. We'll dip into that a little bit more. He's making an historic address to Congress right now. And I want to go back to something that a local individual said a couple of weeks ago, and I think she was talking again to KOMU Channel 8, but just 5 years ago she'd moved from Ukraine. Now calls Mid-Missouri home, just like the rest of us do this morning. And she said, you know, it's not about the land. It's not about this. The people in Ukraine are fighting for the thing that we have here, and that is democracy. And I thought that was a powerful statement. Welcome into the show. Wake Up Columbia. I am Branden. Rathert. Stephanie Bell is back on Monday. Hannah, the producer. Brian Hauswirth joining us on the show this morning. Glad you could be here. Something we could do for you. 874-9390. 874-9390. Last night, another mayoral candidate forum. This one sponsored by KOMU. The now 4 candidates for mayor. We know that Maria Orapalo dropped out. Another candidate forum last night. Randy, from your point of view, the big topics covered last night and where you stand. What was the biggest topic? Is it homelessness?
Well,
let me put it this way. Is the perception from a good portion of people in town, is the perception that homeless is the number one issue? Is that a perception? Because if so, it's a wrong perception in my opinion.
Well, I don't think homelessness is the number one issue in Columbia. So me personally, I think what people don't understand when they look and they see people standing on the corner begging for money, they see people sleeping downtown, it appears there's no handle on the homelessness issue. And so, you know, one of my questions the other day to the city manager when we met with the new city manager, Carlin Seawood, was how many people is too many sleeping downtown? Do we have a limit? Like, is it 10? And once it gets over 10, you go, hey, we don't have room for more. There's no answer to that. I didn't expect him to have an answer for it, but it appears to the public as though we're not dealing with the homelessness issue. There's a small group of people who are in need, and each one of those individuals has a different issue. There's a man named Blonde John that sleeps at 9th and Broadway.
Yes!
and Blonde John, according to the other people that know John, is bipolar and can't afford his medicine. So do we house John? Well, yeah, in the short term, but do we help John get John's medicine? That would be the humane thing to do. So each one of these individuals needs to be treated individually.
There's Ed, the homeless guy from Boonville, lives under a bridge in Boonville, been homeless for a lot of years now. He comes on the show from time to time, and he spends a lot of his time, and I've discovered this in homeless communities. These homeless people help other homeless people, but something, because I'm against all my taxpayer money's going to, it's got to go for for homelessness and all these people these activists, and they are activists. Don't let anybody lie to you at city council meetings. These activists that show up, and that's homelessness, and it's so important. And I love this. One woman a couple weeks ago said, and for Matt Pitcher to go on 93.9 The Eagle and say that this is not as big of an issue as people say. Well, we're talking about it in our churches. We're talking about it in schools and on the streets. Well, good, but what are you doing about it, lady? What are you doing about it? I think it's a virtue signaling kind of thing. That's just where I am. Any other anything else that you want to bring up as far as? And we are going to have everybody. As a matter of fact, so I have said publicly. I said I don't endorse you because I think it's hoity-toity to say I endorse. Nobody gives a crap what I think.
Yeah.
But I say this is who I would vote for with what I know today. We have had a candidate who has said. Hey, I would like to be your number 2. When was the last time in politics? Because, when people go to Mar-a-Lago, they go wherever, begging for endorsements. Have you ever heard of a story where someone said, well, if you're not going to endorse me, can I be like your number 2 endorsement?
Never heard of that.
It's unique. Let me ask you this, because they are going to be calling in here in just a couple of minutes. Of the 3 candidates besides yourself, who do you think that candidate would be? That would contact us and say, "Can I be your number 2 endorsement?" Any guesses?
No, I wouldn't even venture to guess.
So this would be a surprise for you too.
It would be.
All right. Campaigning on a local level, mayoral race, and the stipend is what, $9,000 a year. So it's not really a paying position that covers your expenses. Anything that's really surprised you while you've been campaigning to be mayor?
Well, I think there's so much to learn about being the mayor, and so in order to campaign on being the next mayor, to learn those issues and to learn what can be done, what can't be done, that's a bit of a challenge. And so you don't want to make promises you can't keep, and yet it's hard to understand. It's hard to get inside the local government to understand those things.
And I would think this is kind of odd, too. So I've been knowing you before you ever had any political ambitions, know you personally, don't know a whole lot about your politics wasn't our thing. We had other things in common that we gelled behind and became friends over. And I still don't know a lot about your politics, but I know city politics. So there's basic questions, roll carts, yes or no, yes or no. One word answer.
Yeah, no. I got trapped on that Saturday.
Right?
That's an unfair.
Yes, and that's my point. Is somebody will say something or they're quoted at a thing, and then, well, you said you were against roll carts in this one-word answer. Which, by the way, when that comes up again, nobody would ever say, "Hey, that host Branden Rathert specifically asked for a one-word answer." So I get it. Here's the other thing that I find, and if you don't want to answer, that's cool. I tell people all the time, I'm like, okay, for example, school board. I would today vote for Andrea Lisenby and Adam Burks. I hope that's who you will vote for too next month. But it's Columbia.
Right.
Do you get my drift?
Mm-hmm.
We can say, hey, we believe in these people and they do want to do good things, what we believe is best for our city. And we can all, get together here on 93.9 The Eagle every morning and talk about this. But I'm a realist. I'm always a realist. But we live in Columbia. We are an uber liberal, progressive city at times whose big claim to fame is a university, and I think, and the people that live here and the parks. What kind of challenge is that? Trying to go out and espouse, I would guess, conservative ideas, but you're in Columbia, Missouri.
I mean, I think the difference between me and maybe some of the other candidates is they talk about this idealism and there's this la-la land and where the world could be. And what I'm talking about is outcomes. And so, like with the school board, I wouldn't tell you who to vote for. I'd ask you, do you want to see teachers and parents have control over what your student, what that scholar does, learns, accomplishes? I mean, I can't imagine anybody would say, oh, I'd rather the administration at the school system have some kind of control over my child. Yeah. So if you want to see teachers and parents have more of a say-so, listen to the candidates and vote for the candidate who would get you that.
See, you just did something that makes me think and I don't want to say playing both sides, but that hey, it's Columbian. Yeah, I'm conservative, but I still got to borrow a little bit from the liberal playbag. For example, you called school kids, you called them scholars. I don't have any issue with that. I know a lot of folks say, oh, it's a liberal. We're calling them scholars instead. I don't give a whatever you call them. But you work that in.
Right.
Scholars, it's like you're playing.
You'd
or
have
not.
To,
I'm
you'd have
reading
to go pretty deep to find a liberal bone in my body. So I don't know that if me using the word scholar indicates anything.
And again, a minor thing, but I find it fascinating when conservatives run in Columbia, with the exception of Matt Pitzer, maybe on the city.
I like the word scholars. I think that's I think it sounds edifying to the students.
Well, and so many people get hung up on words and names. Whatever. So here's a question, and I'll give you some time to think about it because I've got to move forward here a little bit. So two things, if you can hang out for a few more minutes. So the candidate that has asked for our number 2 endorsement is calling in. And also, would you be willing to answer this question? Let's say it's April. It's that Tuesday in April, and you're going to the ballot. You're going to vote. Let's say you're not in the mayoral race. Who would you vote for? That's my question for you. So 2 questions. Do you want to answer that question?
Sure.
Okay, we'll do that here in just a few minutes. Plus, the person who has asked for our number 2 endorsement is going to be joining us here at 8:25 on 93.9 The Eagle. It's Wake Up Columbia. Good morning. Gap's Automotive Repair Shop. I've been knowing them for about 65,000 miles on my car. I've got a car. It's almost as old as Hannah, the producer, but I love that thing. I don't have a car payment. It's my car, man, and I don't want to give up that freedom of not having. I don't want a car payment, and that's one of many reasons why I go to Gap's Automotive Repair Shop. Gap's Automotive Repair Shop. Here's the thing: I don't know a whole lot about cars. I'm at the mercy of what other people tell me. I can do my own research. I can do this. Part of my research going to several different local mechanics, which I did 65,000 miles ago, and I liked Gap's Automotive Repair Shop. I just trust that we have a good relationship. Here's the other thing. It's the same, since it's a small local business contributing to the economy of Columbia and Boone County and mid-Missouri, small local company, it's the same people that have been working on my car for 65,000 miles. That's a rarity. Like, you go to one of these big places or a dealership, and not to knock what they do, but you get different people all the time. Same people have been working on my car for 65,000 miles. I love it. Gap's Automotive Repair Shop. They're in Columbia and in Booneville.
People are talking about Branden Rathert.
He's an outstanding man, and I'm sure that he'll do very well. I think he's just outstanding.
This is Wake Up Columbia, 93.9 The Eagle.
Less than a month from now, municipal elections. We are voting for school board members. We are voting for mayor in Columbia, this internet sales tax thing locally. And we're voting for city council members. So there's some important things. Brianna Lennon, yesterday, in chatting with our news director, Brian Hauswirth. So Brianna's been on the show before, and we've made steak dinner bets on what turnout would be, because typically it's 12% for municipals. But I think because I've influenced Boone County Clerk Brianna Lennon, she's projecting 15%. And by the way, she still owes me a steak dinner. All right, so Randy Minchew, running for mayor in Columbia, is joining us. I want to bring in this person from, and I did not know this individual until they decided they were going to run for office. We've had a couple of fun conversations, and she's helped me with a couple of other things. And this individual has said, hey, I know you have said on the radio that today, with what you know, you would vote for Randy Minchew. And I said, yeah, I would do that. She said, will you make me your number 2? And I love the spunk in that.
I do too.
Have you ever heard of anybody saying, well, okay, you say you're going to vote for that. Can I be your number 2? I love you. I love that idea. I love the spunk. And that person is Tanya Heath, who's also running for mayor. She's joining us on the show now. Tanya, welcome in. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm doing well. How about you?
Excellent. I'm glad you could be here. Now, we're going to have you on again. We'll have everybody on prior to the election, but just wanted to chat with you real quickly here, like 30 seconds. Your big thing last night from the candidate forum.
Yes, I am all about common sense and collaboration, and I just feel like there's so many issues in Columbia, and we really need to talk to the people who are getting the end result, whether it's, neighborhoods that need potholes fixed or neighborhoods that need better snow removal or, just everything. We need to actually talk to the people, our residents, instead of making ideas from the top and then implementing them and not being nimble when they need to be changed.
And that, Tanya, is why, because I agree with that 100%. These people that are these activists that are showing up at city council meetings, we need to build a homeless shelter, unicorns and rainbows and plant rose bushes, I think is wrong. So, by the way, at your forum the other night, I walked out and there were like 8 homeless people outside of this church that I talked to. Those are the end people of the results of ideas that are happening. Listen, we'll have you on again real soon. Okay. But that's why you are my number 2 choice, okay?
Yay. Thank you so much. HeathForMayor.com. Thank you.
HeathForMayor.com. I love that, man. And she's just, well, if you're going to pick, can I be your number 2? I love it. Randy Minchew, I want to ask, can you hang out for like another 5 minutes?
Sure.
All right. Randy Minchew, who is also running for mayor, has agreed to answer this question. You go to the poll. It's April. You're going to vote, but you're not on the ballot. Who do you vote for? The other 3 mayoral candidates. How is Randy going to answer that question? That's coming up at 8:35 here on 93.9 The Eagle. Right now, I have your ABC 17 storm track forecast. Sunshine, 76 today, 71 tomorrow, and then Friday, maybe some thunderstorms. High only 50. Right now, it's 50. Weather is brought to you by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. For all your heating needs, log on to AIRESERV.com.
This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Lillian Wu. A warm greeting from Congress for Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky ahead of his virtual address and plea for help and a no-fly zone.
I'm proud to greet you from Ukraine, from our capital city of Kyiv, a city that is under missile and airstrikes from Russian troops every day, but it doesn't give up.
Voice of a translator telling President Biden being leader of the world means being the leader for peace, also calling for a new alliance to protect countries from war, saying the ones which exist aren't working.
We propose to create an association, U24, United for Peace, a union of responsible countries.
Zelensky also playing a graphic video for lawmakers which showed destruction by Russians in Ukraine. This is a Fox News Alert.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. Robinson saves you time. It is 8:31 right now. We do have bright sunshine in Columbia. We are warming up right now. 49 our current temperature, on our way today to a high of 76 degrees. Clear skies tonight, low near 49. Good morning, everyone. And here are some of the stories that we are working on for you. At this hour, jury selection in a high-profile 2018 Jefferson City murder case will begin Monday.
Juwan Worley is charged with first-degree murder and other crimes in the shooting death of 33-year-old Justin Camerich back in December of 2018 at an apartment complex off West Atchison Street. Worley was only 16 at the time of the shooting. A second 20-year-old victim survived the attack. John Marsh, 93.9 The Eagle.
Meantime, Boone County's clerk is predicting a 15% voter turnout for the April election. Voters in Columbia, Ashland, Boone County will cast ballots in April on a local use tax issue. Use tax is a sales tax on online sales. CPS patrons will vote on an $80 million bond issue. If voters approve the measure, CPS will build a $25 million new elementary school on the John Warner property. They'll also do a $15 million addition and renovation at the CACC Columbia Area Career Center. Also, bond issues on the ballot in Southern Boone, in Hallsville. I run all the issues down on our website. It's 939theeagle.com. Two other quick notes. We're about ready to start the trial. Opening statements. The Boone County Courthouse trial of a Columbia man accused of beating a man to death in 2020. His name is David Myers. The victim's name, Anthony Lockwood. Defense attorneys will argue self-defense and avoid the area of Vandiver and Burlington. A motorcycle and vehicle colliding at about 8 this morning. News brought to you by Air Serv Heating and Air Conditioning. In sports, just a couple of quick notes. The Mizzou softball team heading to Urbana today for a bragging rights doubleheader against Illinois. That'll start today at noon. The Mizzou men's baseball team beating the Billikens from St. Louis University yesterday, 18-4 at Taylor Stadium. And the Mizzou women's basketball team, they're in action tomorrow night against Drake. That game will be at Mizzou Arena at 7 o'clock. If you're interested in tickets, the number to call is 1-800-CAT-PAWS. If you can't make it to the game tomorrow, you can hear it on the radio, KTGR, FM 100.5. Brad Trinago will be courtside with the call. Do want to mention, by the way, the news was also brought to you by Hemi Construction, homes and lots in the southwest neighborhoods of Chapel Hill Meadows, Nursery Heights, and Creek's Edge. Our news time, 8:34. And our traffic check with MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Find a job, post your job opening today. Our time is 8:34. Just a quick note. Vandiver in Burlington. Joint Communications tells me there's been a collision in about the last, happened just before the 8 o'clock news. A motorcycle in a vehicle. We don't have any details right now of any possible injuries, but avoid that area if at all possible. And if we get any other information on that, we will certainly pass it along to you. More team coverage coming your way at 9:03. We have breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Raising the alert of Russian nuclear forces is a bone-chilling development. The prospect of nuclear conflict, once unthinkable, is now back within the realm of possibility. The security and safety of nuclear facilities must also be preserved.
The prospect of nuclear events once seemed unthinkable and now quite possible. That is UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres saying, there could be potentially a nuclear conflict with what's happening. So let me get you updated with what just happened in Washington, D.C. Zelensky addressing Congress, not in person. A couple of highlights from what he said, kind of a relatively short speech, if you will. In a personal appeal to Joe, he says, hey, listen, you're the leader of your great nation. I wish you to be leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means being the leader of peace. He also invoked Martin Luther King Jr. during his speech while calling, he wants no fly stone to be established over Ukraine. He says, right now, man, this would help our country, and our country is our people. And then language with words like, I need to protect our sky. Please stop making it rain death here. That's what these human beings are going through this morning here in Ukraine. Zelensky addressing Congress. Some of the highlights from his speech. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Columbia. My name is Branden Rathert. Stephanie Bell back Monday. Brian Hauswirth. Hannah, the producer, is here. Hannah's consistent. She had not a mistake, but just kind of a human, we're all human beings having a human experience. A couple weeks ago, shopping, encountered, I don't know, is it a problem? Is it an issue? What was it?
A moment of humor.
A thing? And it happened again.
Kind of, sort of.
And I'm wondering how often this happens to other folks that like to buy groceries online. That's coming up just a few minutes from now. Meanwhile, Columbia mayoral candidate Randy Minchew is joining us on the show. Tanya Heath, who is another mayoral candidate, she just joined us. I like Tanya. I didn't know her prior to her running for mayor, but I have said publicly right now today I would vote for you. And she has said, well, hey, can I be your number 2 choice? And I'm like, I have never been asked that before, but why not? We'll make it a first. And here's the other thing I think it would give her some street cred with our audience to have that sense of humor about herself, that realness about herself.
Sure. Yeah, that's right.
I think it's great. All right, so one of the things we asked, by the way, Ben, listener Ben Voller, I have this bad habit of always being behind on time, and really the only person that knows is Hannah. Nobody else knows or cares. But Ben is he's on that Hannah playbook. He says, being in the construction business, Randy understands contractor time. 5 minutes on Branden Rathert's show is actually like 30 minutes, right? So the idea you were going to only come in for 5 or 6 minutes, highlights from the thing last night, but then Zelensky addressed Congress, and then Tanya Heath is asking to be our number 2, and so we called her, hey, can you come on real quick? And I love that she did that. Ben gets us. Thank you very much.
Ben, you should see what it's like after the show if we have a meeting at 9:05, and we sit around and wait for Branden to show up. It's usually about 9:15.
Daylight saving time.
Right.
Listen, what do you call those citizens who say, you know what, I'm not a property of the government. I don't need a driver's license. I'm here. God put me here. So I have those people that do that kind of thing. They think they don't need any driver's license to drive and all that stuff. I want to be like that, except time. I'm just on my own. I have my own clock.
Let me know how
traveler. Traveler.
Let me know how that works out with your place of employment.
So one of the questions we asked Randy Minchew, and this is the final question I have. If there's anything else that you want to add, please feel free to do so. But you're going to the polls. It's April. You go in there, but you're not running for mayor, and you voted for school board members. You voted on this. You have voted for city council, and your name is not in that mayoral race. Who? Of the 3 other folks that are in this race, Barbara Buffalo, Tanya Heath, and David Seaman, who is currently on the school board, Columbia Public School Board, and served our country valiantly in the Marines, who would you vote for?
Well, I'm going to paraphrase my answer. I'm going to give you just a little. So I'm learning to be a politician.
I know. Don't spin political BS.
That's right.
Just who would you vote for?
Right.
Give your political BS and then give me the answer.
All right. So because there's some infrastructure needs that the city has sort of overlooked for several years. We've got a water quality issue. We've got an electrical grid issue. We've got a few things that we have not. We have some sewer lines that we were supposed to run and didn't. We voted on it and they didn't run it. There's a few sort of deferred infrastructure needs that we have to have. It's not glamorous. It has nothing to do with politics. It's kind of what city council and the city government are supposed to be in charge of.
It's stuff literally beneath the surface of top of mind awareness issues.
It is. And if we're going to be prepared to grow, you can't grow cities, you can't grow your city, you can't grow neighborhoods where there's no sewer line. So we've got to put sewer pipe. So because this other person sees those needs exactly the way I do, even though our politics are miles apart.
Yeah.
If I wasn't in, she'd probably still be in. It'd be Maria or Apollo. And so while we see a lot of things different politically, her knowledge of the finance of the city and her requirement that we be transparent, she would be the only person I would vote for. And she might be in if I weren't in and the candidate situation looked different. So there's my answer for you.
So here's my response. My first response is you obviously know Maria or Apollo is not in the race anymore. However, if I'm being factual, My question was, you're going to vote and you see the names on the ballot. Her name is still going to be on the ballot.
That's right.
Okay, let me ask you another question. Of the 3 candidates still in the race, and you can't vote for yourself, who would you vote for?
I don't think I'm going to answer that. I don't think I'm going to answer that.
Because I'm going to take it out of context. And
it's out of context, and I don't want to disparage anybody who's running against me. And the fact is, I'm in. And I think I have the answers we need. I think I've got the leadership we need. So your hypothetical doesn't exist, and so people don't have to worry about that. If they go to the polls, vote for Randy Minchew.
All right. And I have said that's what I'm going to do. And an interesting point, too, you talk about Maria. As a matter of fact, Maria or Apollo was on the show Monday to talk about her decision to drop out of the race, and it was pretty telling to talk about the money in these local. And that's another conversation, the money in these local races. Wow. Especially school board candidates. I don't know what the monies are this year, but I know last year what some of these people spent. Crazy. Shows you how much people want in that power position on the school board, at least in my mind. I don't know if there's any singular issues, maybe with the exception of roll cards, that would win a mayoral race. But that's the thing with politics in general. Because I've had people say, well, this city council candidate, you know what she did? Yeah, everybody's known that for years. Sure. Do you know about this? Do you know this person? This? Yeah, I know. But what's important to me? And, for example, with your decision to say, well, I would vote for Maria or Apollo if I weren't voting for myself because of that one big issue that's important for Columbia. And you might disagree on 98 other things.
Right.
But I think it's those things we find, hey, okay, where can we agree? And to a bigger point, so we don't have the same politics. Maria or Apollo and I will swap texts, and she'll talk about her hippy-dippy stuff. And I said, Maria, I'm on board with some of your hippy-dippy stuff,
sure,
but a lot of it I'm not. Doesn't mean we can't be friends. And then I think to a larger point is when it comes to discussions, usually as they relate to politics, and I said this earlier this morning, I think so many of us, we're hell-bent on winning our argument. And I think this is important when we talk about marketing to a younger generation of conservatives, because I hear so many, and I'm not talking people necessarily in media, but happy hour, wherever, people want to win the argument. I just don't think that should be top of. You could be a master debater all you want. You could win arguments left and right. But my question is, at the end of the day, have you maybe turned on some new blood to what being a conservative or at the very least an independent is? That's the bigger prize. You don't have to win the argument. You can maybe affect change on somebody by being polite and asking some questions. Anything else you want to add before we let you go?
Well, I just want to add in, the requirement, and I think what you're talking about is the requirement for diplomacy and the ability to get a group of people to agree, at least in principle, on making change. And I think that's one of the things that I would bring to the table with the city council is the ability to let the different council members get what they need for their ward, and so the city get what it needs overall. And then lastly, there's some things that are not that popular politically to talk about, and I don't know why it is, but there's pressure against expanding the police department. There's pressure against making our city safer because of these projected issues that happen in New York or in other cities that don't happen here. And so
but in San
we have
Francisco.
we have to deal with reality, and we have to deal with what's happening at home. And as far as I'm concerned, if we have issues with our police department, we'll deal with those as they come up. So we've got to get our public, our safety has got to be key.
All right. Randy Minchew, running for mayor. Website you want to hand out?
MinchewForMayor.com.
MinchewForMayor.com. Thanks. Always a pleasure chatting with you, and I'm sure we will chat again prior to the election. Randy Minchew, running for mayor. Off the text, 874-9390. Should I save it until 8:50, Anna? Well, it's an interesting question, something pertinent to what's happening right now. Saying, well, gosh, are you going to have the other mayoral candidates in the studio for 30 minutes? I know the election laws when it comes to interviews. No, you don't. I love this. I know these laws. No, you don't. Two things. There is not a fair. I don't have to have all the other candidates on. They've all already been on, and they will be on again before the election. I don't have to legally do that. It's not a federal election. So I love when people, I know the election law. You have to give all the others equal time. No, I don't. And gosh.
You gonna open that can of worms?
I could, but I don't have enough time to be angry about this. We've only got a few more minutes. Gary Nolan show's coming up.
I wonder why you don't have enough time.
By the way, listener Chris also texted in and said, yeah, I notice when you're running behind.
Thanks, Chris.
He's got a clock.
This is Wake Up Columbia, featuring Branden Rathert on 93.9 The Eagle.
They exist and you have them, but they are on earth, not in Ukraine, in the Ukrainian sky. They do not defend our people. I have a dream. These words are known to each of you. Today I can say, I have a need. I need to protect our sky.
Volodymyr Zelensky addressing Congress less than an hour ago. Obviously, that's an interpreter. They're going to have more on this coming up. Fox News at 9 o'clock. And I'm guessing one of the many things that Gary Nolan, it's my dad's favorite talk show here on 93.9 The Eagle, Gary Nolan show. I'm guessing one of the things that he is going to be covering on his show today here on 93.9 The Eagle. And before we move forward into some leftovers and what happened to Hannah again, she's consistent. You're consistent, and I like consistency.
Yeah, this was not my fault this time.
Not your fault, but it happened. But I wonder how many other people it happens to. Coming up this Saturday, I know it's Wednesday. It looks like as we get into the weekend, it looks like showers, maybe some thunderstorms on Friday. I haven't seen Saturday's weather, but if it looks like it's not going to be ideal. So, man, join us at our annual Como Man Show with Seiden Stricker Nobi, Shepherd's Distributing, Doolittle Trailer Manufacturing. This is a big event, guys. It's not just guys. It'd be women and kids, families there. It's just all kinds of folks, all kinds of fun. Plus, Robinson's Heating and Air is going to be there. M&M GC is going to be there. Also, Royal Power Sports of Columbia. They'll be there. Creative Audio, American Shaman of Mid-Missouri. Also, Good Vibrations Ladies Writing Club is going to be there. So, see, there's stuff there for everybody. $20 at the door, Saturday, Holiday Inn Executive Center. This is going to be 10 to 3, $20. But is what you can do if you get onto our website, 939theeagle.com. You can buy tickets right now, and they're cheaper, only $15. Thank you for joining us here on the show this morning. And Hannah and I we're going to be golfing at the Man Shows. I'm pretty excited about that. We've put up a driving range in there. This is not a little putt-putt. We have shut down half this place. We have driving irons, golf ball. Well, we're not doing that.
And it took Andy Humphrey and I a very long time to track down a left-handed golf club. So if you're left-handed, you should really be grateful for what we did for you.
When I was in my first marriage, my wife got to asking me one day. She says, if I died, she said, would you remarry?
Did you say that she didn't even need to die for that to happen?
You don't even have to die. Heck, I'll remarry anyway. And I said, well, sure, Andrea, I don't know. And she said, well, then would you and your new wife, if I died, would you live in this house? And I'm like, I don't know. Gosh, that's worse than asking, does your rear end look big in these jeans? I don't know how to answer those questions.
It's probably a trick question or a trap question, too.
Exactly. Fortunately, I didn't trap myself because here's what happened next. She says, well, would you sleep in the same bed? I'm like, I don't know, honey. And then she says, would you let her use my golf clubs? I said, oh, heavens, no, she shoots left-handed.
Oh, no. How'd that
Here's
go
a
over?
big old serving of leftovers on 93.9 The Eagle. Enjoy.
All right, leftovers, some of the things we didn't get to on the show today. Jefferson City Schools have a new superintendent, and I hope that goes well for them. I don't know if you heard this. Sarah Bloom Raskin, another Biden nominee. She's not even going for the vote. She's not even finishing the race. She's dropping out. The big reason is climate change in banking, This happened to Hannah. This happened just a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago, she ordered some boxes. So you buy your groceries online, and you go and pick them up. You don't go in the store. They bring it out to you and say, here you go.
Right. And I had a 5-pack of Kraft mac and cheese in my order, and they didn't have the regular mac and cheese in stock, so they replaced it with 5 boxes of the unicorn and rainbow-shaped Kraft mac and cheese. And as a 21-year-old, that really hurt. It hurt my ego. So I had another slight mishap last night in my grocery order. I had put 1 bag of chips in my order, and they gave me 5 full-size bags of chips. And I went back and double-checked the order, and I only paid for 1 bag.
Really?
So I don't know what the heck happened.
So when you went back to the store to say, hey, you gave me 4 free bags of chips, I want to pay for those, what happened after that?
I didn't do that.
Not yet. You haven't.
Yeah. Sorry.
You haven't.
That makes me a terrible person, but I'm probably not going to go, hey, you gave me 4 bags of extra chips.
Also on leftovers today, what else do we have before we get into the Gary Nolan show? We're talking about the Man Show coming up this weekend. Columbia Transit Advisory Commission, they're talking about bus driver shortages. And I don't know, I have never gotten onto a city bus. I can't speak to that end of it. I haven't gotten on a city bus and ridden it. But I know there's a bus stop in the shops at Broadway right there at like Broadway and 63. I see people in the bus stop, but more often than not, I don't ever see them getting on the buses when the buses does come by. They just it's a place to hang out. But apparently talking about driver shortages. Do we have drivers? And I don't know, maybe people are riding these buses. But I tell you, man, I see these buses cruising around town. There's just never anybody on these city buses. We had Columbia mayoral candidate Randy Minchew on the show. following last night's forum. There's more forums. This all ahead of the April election. Also, Tanya Heath asked us, she said, hey, I heard you're voting for Randy. Can I be your number 2? And she called in. We made her our number 2. And I think, all these things that are happening in the world, whether it's locally and good, bad, whether it's, because listen, don't get into, I know there's a lot of things happening. And it's, I'll get into my head and I think about this stuff and, oh my gosh, Russia and Ukraine and how it's affecting my finances and what's happening here because this administration since January 20th, 2021. And I don't think there's still a few of the far progressives trying to deny, oh no, things are peachy keen. But the rest of America, smart folks are knowing, yeah, things are not good. But you can't get into like the morbid reflection on it. Because I'll get in my head and I think about all these things happening, and it's like, my goodness. I would urge, please don't get so caught up in that it really gets you all bummed out and stuff. So one of the other big highs, I'm still fascinated by this. Yesterday's surprise move: Senate votes overwhelmingly to get rid of daylight saving time. I thought that was great, but here's the other thing: government has the power to, in effect, control time. That kind of freaks me out a little bit. They can control time, kind of. Gary Nolan Show. The Gary Nolan Show is coming up just minutes from now here on 93.9 The Eagle. See ya.